Kenya, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. This after President Uhuru Kenyatta made the announcement at State House, Nairobi.
It is my sorrowful duty to announce to the nation the passing on of His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki, the third president. His Excellency Mwai Kibaki lived a dedicated life, and we salute a notable father figure in the chronicles of our nation, a leader who strove so hard and accomplished so much for this country, a nation he so deeply cherished and served with commitment and an unbending will to improve the lives of our people.
President Uhuru Kenyatta in his speech praised Kibaki for his dedication to the nation, his strive for ensuring that the nation is united and never missed an opportunity to make the lives of fellow citizens better.
We remember the values by which he lived, the ideals he embraced, his dignity, his diligence, his candor, and concern for the well-being of all Kenyans. As a leading figure in Kenya's post-independence history, His Excellency Mwai Kibaki earned the abiding respect and affection of the people of this nation and other nations throughout the world. President Kibaki will forever be remembered as a gentleman in Kenyan politics, a brilliant debater whose eloquence, wit, and charm won the day time and time again.
On April 9, 2013, President Uhuru Kenyatta took his oath of office, having won the elections then, and there to transfer power to him was Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, a man who has been described as a gentle giant, gentle at how he handled issues, but never minced his words. Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, on the 15th of November 1931, served as the third president of Kenya from December 2002 until April 2013. He had previously served as the fourth vice president of Kenya for 10 years, from 1978 to 1988 under President Daniel Arap Moi. He also held cabinet ministerial positions in the Jomo Kenyatta and Daniel Arap Moi government, including as Minister for Finance in 1969 to 1981 under Kenyatta, and Minister for Home Affairs in 1982 to 1988, and Minister for Health in 1988 to 1991 under Moi. On 29 December 2002, still nursing injuries from a motor vehicle accident and in a wheelchair, Emilio Mwai Kibaki was sworn in as the third president and commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Kenya, in front of thousands of cheering supporters at the historic Uhuru Park within Nairobi city. At his inauguration, he stressed his opposition to government corruption, saying the government will no longer be run on the whims of individuals. Kibaki's swearing-in marked the end of 4 decades of KANU rule, the party having ruled Kenya since independence. Moi, who had been in power for 24 years, began his retirement.
Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya. I am greatly honored for the confidence you have extended to me, and I promise not to let you down.
President Kibaki was a highly intelligent and competent technocrat. In January 2003, Kibaki introduced a free primary education initiative which brought over 1 million children who would not have been able to afford school the chance to attend. The initiative received positive attention, including praise from Bill Clinton, who met Kibaki in Kenya in July of 2005. The Kibaki presidency set itself the main task of reviving and turning around the country after years of stagnation. President Kibaki, the economist whose term as finance minister in the 1970s is widely celebrated as outstanding, did much as president to repair the country's economy. Kenya's economy in the Kibaki years experienced a major turnaround. GDP growth picked up from a low of 0.6% in 2002 to 3% in 2003. 4.9% in 2005 to 5.8% in 2005 to 6% in 2006 and 7% in 2007. Then after the post-election chaos and global financial crisis in the 2008-2009, the economy was at 1.7% but grew to 2.6%, recovered to 5% in 2010 and 5% in 2011. Kibaki has been eulogized by many, including those he worked closely with, including former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, his Deputy President Kalonzo Musyoka, and many other leaders.
It is a very sad occasion for the nation, the people of Kenya. We have lost the third president of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki is one of the freedom fighters of our country. He has served this country for many years with diligence, with fortitude, with honesty and transparency.
President Kibaki was never referred to as former President Kibaki. He was President Kibaki. So I want to wish President Uhuru Kenyatta God's speed and strength on behalf of all of us as we mourn our leader, President Kibaki.
As his state funeral will be held today, we remember a man who changed the country for the better. We are stationed at Nyeri National Stadium and will bring you the latest as we bid His Excellency Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki goodbye ahead of his final interment in Othaya, Nyeri County. We remember Mwai Kibaki for free primary education and the famous Thika Road. Remember, Newswire is stationed there and we'll be bringing you the latest throughout the day today. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we are calling it Huduma number Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up. I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, let's look and see what Friday morning looks like. It's raining in some parts, and we know it's a holiday. But we'll likely see a lot of drama today because of the events of today. Looks really good on Mombasa Road. Southern Bypass also looking pretty good as well. Probably see some traffic in the middle of the city with all that will be happening then between Parliament buildings and the Nyayo Stadium. But for now, nobody yet. Jogo Road, clear, free, getting out into the city. See some action right around Kamkunji, however. We know that a lot of folks are travelling anyway. Keep an eye on things this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
How are you doing? Happy half-term. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues, rain or shine. Whatever happens, we're here. And why are you looking at me like you're surprised that I'm here?
That's the look on my face.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at you.
Huh? Who's this guy?
What is this guy talking about?
I thought I was alone in here.
Now you're trying to make me sound loopy. I'm here, all of us. All three of me are here.
Mko sawa?
Yes, tuko sawa. Tumeshaongea. Tumesema ndu. Acha tu. Sasa tumekubali.
Kenya City is having his kamkutano.
City is there talking to his guys.
So they're telling guys, let me tell you guys, it's important for us to do this show.
It's just work.
The other one is like, pana.
Mwingine amesema pana, mwingine wacha kwa kitanda.
Mbona huku niambia jana?
That actually is the debate. In fact, the real contender is why I didn't carry an umbrella. And it's raining.
One of your personalities have a high-pitched voice. Now we're going to get wet.
The personality I'm referring to, the first two are whisperers, but there's a third one who is an accomplished whiner.
So you have to tell him where. Stop it.
It's a very simple thing. I'll tell him I'll just return him where he came from.
How you guys hearing?
Well, I'm just sitting here, just looking at you guys and wondering, okay, so what's happening? What's happening? What's going on? Are we here?
You know what I suspect? Eric's people are tired.
They're just asleep.
Eric's people haven't even woken up.
They talked the whole night.
Hey. Otherwise, Mukoje, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Today is the day that the nation will be celebrating Mwai Kibaki in a funeral service that's going to take place at Nyayo National Stadium. Yes, the body will leave the Lee Funeral Home. It'll go to State House. It'll get the final rights and honors by the State House staff and especially State House security. And then pole pole, mwendo wa kasi, si wa kasi, mwendo wa pole pole, taratibu, up to Nyayo National Stadium. It is that day. It's going to be, let's just pray that it doesn't rain in honor of the former president so that everybody in that stadium is just focused on what is happening. At 7 o'clock, we want to have a conversation about something that's still happening. We talked about this last week, but one? Last week. Marsabit County. So, livestock is stolen from a community. The elders, including the chief, senior chief of the community, goes to the neighboring community to have a negotiation and talk about, okay, can we have our livestock back? They are ambushed. They are shot, 5 dead, others missing, and those on the ground say that the number of the dead could actually be even higher than what's been reported so far. What nonsense is this? And this just comes a day after the National Security Council directed that a deterrent, I
believe is what you're looking for.
Or a contingent.
Yes, a contingent of military officers is deployed to this area.
Ridiculous. Unbelievable. I mean,
not just military, they deployed DCI, they deployed other security personnel. Yes, plain clothes.
And special ops military.
Exactly. So what is this?
It's crazy. It's totally crazy. So we'll have a conversation. We want to have that conversation and find out what exactly is happening on the ground. We hope to speak to people who are on the ground, security bosses and community leaders on the ground to hear what's happening. At 8 o'clock, let's revisit that debate of yesterday. So IEBC says there's a court order I'm going to implement the court order. The people who went to court, that's the Katiba Institute, will be here with us in the studio to tell us what were you seeking to understand. And also we'll be reviewing what other people have said. For example, Professor Tom Ojenda, who wants to be the Kisumu senator, and he's a senior counsel, has weighed in on the matter. And he said the court is unconstitutionally unconstitutional in its unconstitutional orders. That
the court must be constitutional in order for it to adjudicate on matters constitutional.
Yes.
Okay. So is he speaking as a lawyer or as a politician?
Well,
or both.
Nowadays we separate the two.
You know what? These things.
He spoke as a politician because he was writing as a candidate to his party. You know, he's saying, look, I have been nominated by my people. There's a risk that I may be rejected by IEBC.
And my people have spoken.
You know, there's something interesting about this legal speak. There was a time it was complete gobbledygook. You didn't even know what they're saying. But these days, we have Google.
Google.
So you speak, we search, we look,
we find
then we read.
Yes.
Then we say, okay, repeat what you said again. Then we say, we've read. And there's this other article which doesn't say what you're saying. And the one you quoted also doesn't say the way you're saying it. It is saying like this.
Yes.
So it is all right. It can unconstitutionalize itself all it likes.
Completely.
My friend.
Yes.
It was a court of law. Full stop.
We'll discuss that at 8. Quickly, Ndu.
Very quickly.
Yes.
All right. So 512 million. That's what the world is looking at. In Kenya, we're looking at 11 new cases from a sample size of 2,493. Positivity rate of 0.4%. That's what's happening in the country. Around the world, we've seen that vaccine makers see off push to share COVID know-how. They're interested in making sure everybody is aware of what's going on. 3 of the world's biggest COVID vaccine makers have seen off attempts to make them share the know-how to make their jabs. They don't want to do this. They're not interested in saying, you know what, let's tell everybody how we do this so that you also can have a share in what we are eating in terms of profits. A group of investors put proposals to the annual shareholders meetings of Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson and Moderna, but were voted down. They argued sharing this intellectual property would speed up the rollout of vaccines by boosting manufacturing, which makes sense on one hand, but the drug makers say they're making doses faster than they can be used, so why should we share? We have, everybody's getting them. You're saying that we share the information with you so that the rest of the world can catch up and also have, the knowledge and the know-how to make them. But why? We are making them. There's enough for everybody. So why should we share? More than 11.4 billion doses of vaccine have now been distributed worldwide. About a third of the global population has not even had a single dose, according to the head of the WHO. And they're saying this is the reason why. We're saying, look, you guys clearly are not making it fast enough for everybody who needs it. So share. And they're saying, no candy cane, monsieur. So it looks like it's going to continue to be a tussle in that world, but that's what's happening with that.
Yeah. We are live streaming, aren't we, Ednah? Yes, we are. At Tujenda Halftime on YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, and I can see that some of you are, please say hello. Happy Halftime, Kenya. 18 minutes after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation
Light rain in Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 16 today. Partly cloudy conditions at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 21 and lows of 14. And at 15, it's raining in Nyeri, highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's clear at 14 in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 13. Also raining in Mombasa this morning at 24, highs of 30 today. And we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Malindi currently at 27. It's 20 degrees in Kisumu and it's raining as well. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 18. And in Kakamega, mostly cloudy conditions at 18. 25 will be the high and lows of 15. Into Friday, Kampala is raining at 20, highs of 23. And Dar es Salaam rain showers as well, currently at 24, good highs of 30. Johannesburg is clear at 12, highs of 20, and we'll see highs of 32 in a hazy Lagos this morning, currently at 26. It's clear for now in Kinshasa at 23. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 23. Going into afternoon Friday, Beijing is mostly sunny at 17. We'll see highs of 20. And at 11, Paris is clear, highs of 20 today. 13 degrees will be the high in a clear London at 7, coming down to lows of 4. New York, 9 degrees and clear, still Thursday night. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 14 and lows of 5.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
It is 21 minutes after
94.4 Spice FM.
Hi,
Nairobi.
everybody says. Amimo Vin says, good morning, tuning from Rarieda. Today is market day. And we hope Okeke will bring in a chicken. Indeed, we always hope Okeke brings the chicken home. But it's a wait-see kind of thing, isn't it? Daktari Nyabuto.
The wife is walking around the village, seeing who else
can bring a chicken.
Could have a chicken.
Where the chicken is, so there shall I be. Daktari says he's tuned in. Victor Marciaya is tuned in this morning from Alego, Karapul. Dominic Chariot says he's on board. And from Roiro, that's where Clyde Nanjakululu is tuned in this morning. Good morning, 102.5. Nandi is loud and clear. That's where Kipiegon is today. Gishuru wa Raini says he's tuned in. And Yobesh is also tuned in this morning. That name sounds really Yiddish. I really wonder. Anyway, Macha, well tuned, that's where Beta Ashley is tuned in from this morning. Hello, happy half term, Kenya. And that's what Mwachiti says. Simiyu Kevin tuned in from Watamu. Hey, Ndu City and Eric. Eric, Leo Ukona story. Give Ndu a break.
Which Ndu?
Which of them? One day I shall introduce you to all of them. One day. Always glad to connect you guys very early here at 4 a.m. And Kenya is 2 hours ahead. Where would you be? You could be anywhere in the world that's 2 hours ahead. Where are you, Victor Chung? Interesting. Matilda Make is tuning in this morning from South Africa. And Mope is tuning from Waiga in Nyeri County. Robert Mbogo tuning from Mombasa this morning. And Sky Karish says, good morning, Eric Ndu and CT. And Johnson is watching live from Kericho, tuning from Kasarani. That's where George Machuki is. And Colin says, what a long weekend indeed. Dave says, the three of you are suspiciously happy for people who are missing the half-term break. Sir Haron says, good morning, tuned in from Kisumu. And United States of Kino, USK, is much present. Okay, right. That's Mundoro. And Farista, we see you online as well. And Brayo. He says you were eagerly waiting to hear from Dr. Gikonyo, and now what happened?
Buana, Dr. Dan Gikonyo, okay, he sent his apologies. He had been on a TV show with Jeff Koinange until past midnight. And he was like, Eric, Buana, I will make up for this one day. So he'll come one day.
One day.
Yes.
We see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Oh, and Andrew's asking, is it TGIF? Is it actually TGIF? Good morning.
Can you imagine it is?
Half-term Kenya, 5 days holiday starts today. Vincent Chumba, and he says he's staying tuned. Thanks
Someone
for joining
says
us, guys.
this is going to be Uhuru's biggest legacy.
That he gave us a 5-day holiday.
City, the proverb.
You know, we've been traversing all manner of places in all parts of this continent. I thought we'd nestle our thoughts back home. One of the things that the immediate former and now late President Mwai Kibaki was known for was what I think was seen as quips. He'd make a comment here and there, a brief statement, but they later became sayings that were attributed to him. Now, there are two that I have chosen to play the part of a proverb, meaning when you talk of proverbs, you talk of sayings.
So we are making Kibaki a muhenga
we are
from
making
this
him
point
onwards. Yes.
Okay.
There's one particular word that he was associated with when he made reference to certain individuals who he didn't name. And the word used was pumbavu. Now, pumbavu is a Swahili word that means foolish. It also means thoughtless. But it also means short-sightedness. Now, we'll contextualize it shortly.
Okay.
But the one which caught the headlines and stayed with us for the longest time was when again he referred to unnamed individuals and the things that they were doing, and he referred to them as hii ni mavi ya kuku. Now, chicken droppings, one may ask, why are they so relevant? Well, they are used as manure. Some use them as fish feed. But one of the things that is absolutely true about them, even if you stepped on them, you wouldn't need to remove your shoes to clean. All you'd do is probably just wipe your feet on some, or your shoe on some grass or something, and then you would continue. Now, let's go to interpretation.
Right.
It means it can't be that relevant. It's not something
You're
that's
inconsequential.
Completely.
Yikes.
That is precisely what you are. We will step on you, and then we will continue doing what we were doing and what we purpose to do.
And wipe you off on the grass.
And wipe you off on the grass and continue, meaning we won't even miss a beat as we continue.
Sheesh.
So, in case you are wondering what you are, we've told you exactly what you are, and that is, we've placed you. Precisely. Remember, when we were talking to the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Wano Lekaparo, he told us the thing that the President was known to do when young firebrands came to Parliament, and very quietly, in the manner in which he spoke, say, you know, brother,
we've been here.
You know, we've been around. This block that you're running around, we ran around it before you. So, even as you go about your business, as far as he was concerned, the best he could do was acknowledge you and give you the position he felt you deserved, inconsequential.
Yeah, he never. Everybody who has spoken about Kibaki has said he never shouted at you.
Nope.
Never. But
he didn't raise his voice.
But you knew.
Yes.
He'd keep quiet, and that was loud enough.
It was adequate communication.
It was adequate communication. Like,
yes.
Am I bothering with this one? Let me move on, man. I told you. Well, when you binada mi mavia kuku.
That's it.
Bav.
You.
Okay. So, do they come now into a? Have you put them together into a sentence, into a phrase?
You know,
Kumbavu ni mavia kuku. Or what?
No. When you are referred to as mavia kuku, okay, the summary of all that is that wewe ni pumbavu. Meaning, you are mavia kuku because you are foolish, you are short-sighted, and you are thoughtless. You don't consider things before you speak or do whatever you are doing. So the pumbavu was the summary.
You're just a useless fellow.
You are not very useful.
You're of no use.
Yes.
No. No.
Yes.
Aya. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. Today, the Standard's pull-out game is strong. There are 3 pull-outs in the Standard today.
You what?
Yeah. You got it? Get it? You don't get it, forget about it. There's one pull-out on the Mwai Kibaki story. This is a souvenir magazine by the Standard looking into the life and times of the former President Mwai Kibaki. How many pages is this? It's actually a number of pages. Many tributes by people. This is an entire... is it paginated yet? No, it's not. From page 21 to page 36.
Those are many pages.
Those are many pages. Yes? You only pull out number 1. There's a second pull out, and this is celebrating the TVETs in the country. It's called the TVET Journal, Reinventing Technical and Vocational Training, looking at what TVETs are doing, the importance of TVETs, which TVETs are offering, what kind of programs, and this is important, especially now that KCSE results were released the other day. It's important for us to look at the TVETs and see what choices people have. Remember, only about about 10% of people have qualified for a degree for university admission. So the rest will be heading towards TVETs.
Yep.
TVET is important. The TVET journal. The third pullout is, of course, today is Friday, and every Friday, the Standard has the Pulse magazine. It's headlining a story here. They're saying, on social media. If you want to get all those pullouts, buy the Standard newspaper today. Today, buy the physical copy. Okay? What's the stories in the papers?
Well, it's interesting because on then page 6 of the Standard, it's talking about Kibaki's last day in the city where it started, a place called home. And adjacent to that, there's a picture of, interestingly, his sister, Esther Waitherero, who is 107 years old, and she's still alive, with her son, Tony Githinji, at her home in Gatuyani village in Othaya, Nyeri County. And she was able to sit with journalists yesterday and talk a little bit about her younger brother. Emilio Mwai Kibaki, Kenya's avowed economic redeemer and gentle giant of politics, takes a final bow before the city where he started his political career. For 50 years, Kibaki, a seemingly reluctant politician but a fine man, or rather manager of repute, bestrode the country like a colossus, making slow but significant strides until his crowning moment in 2002 when he became Kenya's third president. In Donholm, in Nairobi's Eastlands, he made his first stab in politics before taking a strategic move to rural Othaya in Nyeri. But as many analysts pointed out in the last 1 week, Kibaki was cut out for bigger roles from his childhood. The big city was going to be his playground, and playground indeed it was, because it was here he staged his comeback and redefined his place in history. Dropped as the vice president and swimming against strong political currents, he crossed to the opposition, lost the presidential toll twice before the 2002 moment that placed him at the apex of the country's political leadership. For 10 years, he tried his skills at making Kenya great, failed in 2007, but picked up the pieces to refine a brand new Kenya, complete with a new constitution, new ethos, and new values. Loved and loathed in equal measure, Kibaki made a dignified and quiet exit from politics in 2013. So it's looking at this, how he lived. Waitherero says, I feel orphaned, having lost my 2 sisters and 5 brothers, so she's the only sibling left. People may not know, but I can tell you the death of my brother affected me very much. I felt bad to know I will not see or hear of him again. She said she has never known peace since the day her son, Tony Githinji, told her Kibaki had passed on. When I received the news that Mwai had passed on, as she calls him, I lost control of my faculties. I loved him and I felt like everything I had was taken away. Life has really changed for me. Despite her advanced age, Waitherero says she was determined to bid farewell to her youngest brother. I would have wanted to see him before he went to God, before he went, but God took him away. I'm only trying to be strong, but emotionally I feel weak. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Indeed. Indeed. And we'll be looking at the lives and times of Mwai Kibaki through today, of course, the eulogies and the tributes that will be paid to him and for him at Nyayo National Stadium. Let's take this quick break, 27 to 7. What's happening? Is we want to see, is there traffic at this point?
No, please.
I think there's a guy called Kevin Matera who may tell us that there is traffic somewhere. Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
And the answer to that question is no, not really. A little bit, as it's spilling over to North Airport Road, coming off of Mombasa Road, just there at the Cabanas. But that's most of what you'll see. And Jogo Road doesn't disappoint either today, because no traffic there at all. Coming from the Donholm rail stop is where you see just a tad here and there. Langata Road as people make their way into the city. But that Kamkunji roundabout coming past Landis Road at the ever busy bus station, getting onto Haile Selassie Avenue is where you'll see a lot of traffic this morning. Thika Superhighway, free and clear, gone in 60 seconds. Don't try this at home. And then coming off Uhuru Highway, getting into the city and then out towards Westlands looks pretty good as well. We're likely to see more traffic coming into the CBD as the minutes tick by. For now, the rain is still coming down. Most folks indoors waiting to see the activities of the day. Should anything pop up, we'll be here to let you know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 25 minutes to 7.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
That is gonna have to pick a new name. Forever, Hilton was a place. Okay? It wasn't a hotel. Now, after 53 years of operations, the Hilton Hotel will close its doors at the end of this year. Even though the hotel's landmark building remains, its sudden disassociation with the Hilton will alter the dynamics of Nairobi's CBD. What's going to happen is that Hilton, the brand, will stop operating this particular facility in the middle of Nairobi, and they will still retain their other two facilities, one on Gong Road, the other one on Mombasa Road. Mm-hmm. What's the one on Mombasa Road called? Garden something.
Garden Inn.
Garden Inn. And the one on Gong Road?
Doubletree.
Doubletree. See? So those, the main Hilton will not longer be operating in Nairobi. A director of the Kenya Tourism Board confirmed to the Standard that the agency had received a notice from the hotel alerting it that it will cease operations at the end of the year. I'm not sure what has occasioned the decision, but I know business has not been looking up for the hotel, especially after COVID-19 struck. The Standard reached out to hotel's marketing manager Maureen Ogola for comment, but she was not picking their calls. Okay. Some employees, of course, will lose their jobs and all. Now, who owns the structure itself? The structure itself is mainly owned by the Tourism Development Corporation. And they're the same ones who also have significant shareholding in where the Nairobi Intercontinental Hotel used to be. So you can see, in a very short span of time, two iconic brands have left the CBD. Mm-hmm. There's the Intercontinental Hotel out of the CBD. The IHG Group, which runs the Intercontinental, is still associated with the Crown Plaza in Upper Hill under the airport. But that property in the CBD, not there. This property, another one, the Hilton as well. It talks about a lot about how was the Kenya Tourism Development Corporation first created. Remember, those are the things that Matera Kariri was telling us with the session of paper number 10 and saying, so let's create these institutions that will be investing and helping to industrialize the country. This one, ICDC and all the others. But if you look at how much you pay in every meal you go to any hotel in this country, there's a tourism development levy. Okay? That money goes to the Kenya Tourism Development Corporation. The Kenya Tourism Development Corporation should then be investing and reinvesting in facilities to promote tourism in the country. Question is, your pesa, where does it go?
Where does it go?
If you look at these two facilities and you look at, for example, the kind of facelift that you'd have wanted to see with the Intercon and the kind of facelift you'd want to see with the Hilton, ask yourself, so what this guy's been doing?
It would have been their responsibility.
Yes.
Because they're their properties, more or less.
If you look at a certain chain of hotels that was, again, predominantly government-owned African tours and hotels, they were spread all over the country, but what they were known for, the lodges that they had. Okay. Now, at some point, they went under. Meaning, whatever remained was more of a whisper. And whatever steps they were taking were more of a limp than an actual stride. But what ended up being seen was that the hotel and the many, many, many units that it had, or the hotel chain, if I may call it that, were then chopped up and individuals started owning those individual hotels.
Yeah, so you could own a piece of the chain.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you see, there was Mombasa Hotel, there was Voice Safari Lodge, there was Kerichuti Hotel, there were many hotels. All I'm saying is, anything that is government owned, if you look at the history, for instance, of ICDC, what ICDC owned, ICDC also owned hotels. But the unfortunate thing with what ICDC owned, whether it was hotels, whether it was a Chumi supermarket, whether it was Kanatko, somewhere along the line, the business that in itself was flourishing somehow seemed to dwindle, and many of these assets ended up in the hands of people who had been senior officials within that organization. So, if I'm to go by the trajectory of that particular history, I would argue that I want to see how this is going to come to an end, because you are not going to tell me that with all these new swanky hotels coming up all over the landscape and doing business, that iconic hotels like Hilton and Intercontinental did not have clientele. That one, and if it's the case, then I'd like it explained in detail how that is the case. Because the moment it's government owned, you are guaranteed business.
Yes.
Because a lot of government business will be taken there in the first place. So, what exactly are we being told? Okay, Hilton have pulled out. Intercont, the brand, have pulled out. So, how many times have we seen hotel chains or a brand pulling out and some other brand comes in and takes over? So, are we witnessing such a scenario where somebody else is going to come in? We are going to see a new brand? Because you cannot tell me that the business that the hotel had has completely ceased to exist.
Of course not. And you look at the size of this property. I mean, you look at the number of rooms that Intercon and the Hilton both bring.
Yes.
Look at the number of meeting spaces.
Yes.
And then extend that into the KICC.
Yes.
So big conference taking place at KICC, and then the accommodation at the Hilton and the Intercon.
Yeah.
Within the CBD area, do we actually have any hotels that have come up that can compete with those two hotels in terms of capacity? No.
None.
So,
no.
What exactly are we being told?
None. It's really, really, really.
I can understand the strain that COVID had, but unfortunately, it's not sufficient as a reason as to why this has to be the decision being taken.
Hotels shut down and they're reopening.
Yeah. Just the other day, one of the hotels reopened after saying, okay.
They're all reopening.
Yeah, Radisson.
They're all reopening.
Just after, we've taken the bump, we've taken the hit. Now let's move. It seems difficult to say, but it was like an easy approach.
These are big international brands. They would be the first ones to reopen.
Hilton Group.
It tells you
IHG.
There's something that was happening around that business anyway.
Seems like an easy decision to shut down.
Yep. City, what story are you looking at before we take a
myself
quick break?
Personally,
yes.
Of the three.
Personally, let me tell you what I was looking at. I was looking at an article that referred to KANU, the oldest party that we have in this country.
Yes.
Remember yesterday we were talking about this very same matter of compliance, the two-third gender rule compliance.
Yes.
Right. KANU complies with the two-third rule for all seats.
Come on. Wait.
Page 10, National News. KANU party has achieved the two-third gender rule in the number of candidates for all the elective positions submitted to the IEBC yesterday. According to Edward Kivuvani, the chair of the National Elections Board, the party has fielded women candidates in all the elective positions, majority of whom are MCAs. And I continue. We are happy, I am reading the quotation, to report that as a party, we have achieved the two-third gender principle in the list of aspirants that we have submitted to IEBC. I continue. As at now, we are fully compliant as a party on all fronts, said Kivuvani.
How many MPs, members of the National Assembly, have the given nomination certificates?
I have looked at this article, and those details that you ask of me have not been indicated.
And the Senate?
As of now, as I look at the details that you have inquired about, they have not been indicated.
So this standard reporter is just telling us stories.
As of now, I am forced to agree with you that this standard reporter is just telling us stories.
Because, I mean, the next thing that you would expect is to go into the detail.
Precisely.
Especially in a new order by IEBC. Show us, KANU has X number of MP nominees, and X are women, X are men.
Yes.
They have, therefore. But if you just
whittle it down to the requirements. Very nice window dressing. However, how many aspirants do you have? What number of them are this? Then we can know that you've actually complied.
This article is really well written because the name that has been attached to it, someone called Standard Reporter.
Oh, okay, that guy.
That's the byline.
Yes, that one.
Okay. Nisawa.
Standard Reporter has done a good job.
A very, very good job. If you're asking someone to be vague, this guy understands it.
Gets the message.
He gets it.
Okay.
760 shillings a month is Showmax.
Yes, 760 Kenyan shillings per month, meaning 1 month, then the following month also. And it's not that if you pay for this month, you paid for the following month. It's just for this month. And so next month again, look for 760, pay again.
What do you get?
Hey, the things you get. Movies, telenovela, crime and justice, sports,
documentary,
mingi, animals running all over the screen. Okay, dangerous ones, snakes, crocodiles.
Snakes running, because this man.
Crime and Justice season 1 and 2. In fact, this is the time to pay for that so that you binge throughout this half term.
In 5 days.
For the half term.
Yes, we're gonna half term. What are you doing? Where are you going? Stay at home.
Raining.
Watch these things. 14 minutes to 7.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Welcome to SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
It's 13 minutes to 7.
You know, there's a CS called Matiang'i. You know him?
Yes.
Serious security. Very important.
Super CS.
Super CS. He has said something very important. It is now emerging that Kenya's prisons are filled up largely by petty offenders. Now, whose cases can be managed out of court? It is now appearing. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i gave an example of persons who are arrested for petty traffic offences that end up in jail. I mean, surely. Some of them are this is not good English, but okay. Some of them are being kept in prison because of a 600 shilling fine for a traffic offence, surely. We are keeping some matatu drivers who are parked on a yellow line. Are we serious? He posed this question. The CS said that some petty offenders being arrested by the police and charged are among prisoners congesting correctional facilities in the country. He was not happy about this. He made the revelation during the e-learning induction program for the probation officers in Nairobi. He said some 5,000 petty offenders would be released to decongest prisons. That's now an announcement that he has made. I hope in the next phase of the decongestion campaign in May, June, we will get out about 5,000 or so petty offenders so that we can move them into the probation service program. So such a service program actually does exist. At the moment, Matiang'i said there is an ongoing recruitment of 1,000 probation officers who will play a major role in the reintegration of the offenders back to society. The program is also being run in collaboration with the European Union. Matiang'i says he's confident because they have 1,000 officers and the next frontier is building successful collaboration networks with social sector agencies. He said 600 probation officers have already been hired and half of them are being taken through the induction program. He challenged the judiciary to ensure that the officers will deliver their duties, saying that their work should satisfy the public who are taxed to pay them. Justice Cecilia Githua, the co-chair Community Service Order National of the Community Service Order National Committee, said probation officers double up as community service officers. They're important for effective implementation of community service programs. They help in identification of work sites and supervision of offenders. So, I mean, long story short, number one, prisons are full, and they ought not to be, because a lot of them, majority of them, are folks who can get off on something else as opposed to serving a term. 600 shillings for a traffic offense, and then we're putting this man in jail for 2 years, 3 years. No. Get them out of there. Put them on a probation service. If they need to serve the state, let them do something else while they carry on their trade, reintegrate them back into society, and then we have some space in the prisons.
Okay. So, what is Matiang'i saying?
Petty offenders should not be in jail.
Okay. So, who is he telling?
He's telling themselves. All of them inside. He's telling themselves. So we should not keep them in jail for petty offences. 600 shillings. Why can't we have this individual pay off and then move out?
Why I'm asking this is because everybody, so the judiciary sends people to jail.
This, yes.
The judiciary sentences you to jail. The judiciary has been saying this. In order to decongest, blah, 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 let's also come up with a way of dealing with petty offenders, alternative justice system, blah, blah, this and the other. Nyaf. Now, it's the minister who is in charge of the prisons who is also saying the same thing.
But now he's saying in the next 2 months, he's going to release them.
Okay, people who've already served and now they're being released. There's a committee that sits and looks at those things.
This is that committee now that this
to commute some of these sentences.
Is working on.
Good, but then they need a long-lasting solution. Matiang'i sits in the National Council for the Administration of Justice with various other. So police are sitting there. Judiciary chairs it. They should discuss this once and for all. And either agree, are you putting an extra budget to build more prisons, or are you going to adopt this thing and Marwan? What do we need? Policy formulation, legal law.
So that when a petty offender is presented to you at whatever, you know that this is what the policy states. We will charge this person, so we have quick justice. We will charge this person right there and then say, you get off with the ticket, you move. As opposed to me saying, okay, you can't pay 600 shillings, go to prison for the next 3 years.
You're in remand. Just go. You go to remand, actually, and you go to prison. You find people who are there. You are fined 30,000.
And they even forgot what they did.
Eric, forget the people who are fined. You go to court, you plead not guilty.
Yes.
They set a certain date for you. But you continue being in prison.
In prison.
Because of bond and bail.
Yes.
Which you can't afford.
Raise.
Yes.
No, I agree. They need to have a standing policy that states this individual within this threshold of here to here, 1 to 10. If this crime falls within this bracket, this offense rather falls within this bracket, then we know that this is happening. It's probation. It's community service. We move instead of us debating back and forth.
The tragedy of all this is that those people are actually forgotten.
That's what I've just said. They've forgotten what they've done.
You enter the system.
Yes. And the system itself forgets that you're there.
Yeah, they forget about you.
So you can have a small case. You're in remand
for years.
Yes, and you're thinking, yes.
What's this about? Not seeing the four walls of a courtroom. Somebody just whispers to you through the bar every now and then, Mr. Jali, I'll find out for you. Oh, come on. No. There has to be a policy with which you deal. And we're not talking about presidential pardon here. We're not talking about commuting sentences. We're just saying, look, these offenses should not warrant that you serve time. Let's move.
And these 1,000 probation officers they want to employ?
They have already employed them. No, they've employed 600. They want to employ another 300. Of the 600 that they have employed, 300 have already been trained. So it looks as though this might move a little quicker. But,
Okay, once you train them, then what's going to change?
See, now, those 5,000 who have been, who will be released come June, will now have people who will help to reintegrate them back into society. Well, how that will happen and the details of such.
Well, we're being told just slightly over 3,000 inmates have been released since January.
They'll release more.
They should release more.
How many more people have been jailed since January?
Yes,
probably
exactly.
Another
Replace
measure.
them. Well, currently they say the prisons are around 6,073 people.
Countrywide. and they want to release 5,000, there'll be nobody left. Are you sure, CT?
I'm just reading. It's not me who's saying it. I'm reading. And this one, we even know the person who's written the article. It's not reporter this time. And they say 955 of these have less than 3 years remaining in their jail term. So you wonder.
Okay, the prisons have 6,000 petty offenders. They're going to release 5,000 petty offenders. We're not talking about all offenders.
No, all are more.
Sour.
Petty.
Sour.
Small time.
Garrett.
Quote. Petty. There's a case that has been filed in Mombasa court by 2 petitioners who are seeking to prevent Mike Mbuvi, Sonko, Gideon, all those names, from contesting the governorship in Mombasa. But now they want to withdraw this matter out of court.
Of course they do.
The 2 voters, Ndoro Kaguyu and George Odhiambo, filed the petition 2 days ago seeking orders to block the IEBC from accepting the nomination of Sonko as a candidate for the Mombasa governor seat. Kayuga and Odhiambo. What is the name? Is it Ndoro Kaguyu, Ndoro Kayuga?
No, there are several people.
You started with Mbuvi, Sonko, Mike.
No, just continue.
The petitioners are one time they're called Ndoro Kaguyu and George Odhiambo. Then second reference, Kayuga and Odhiambo. Mina kuambia watu wa Standard jana. Through lawyer Willis Oluga of Oluga and Company Advocates, want the High Court to issue conservatory orders restraining IEBC from clearing Sonko, the candidate for the Wiper Party, ahead of the August elections. The matter is before Justice John Mativo of the High Court. Yesterday, before the court could issue directions on how the petition would proceed, Kaguya.
Please carry on. Do not be deterred. Don't be deterred, Eric. You're doing very well. Kaguya. Please continue.
One of them is his name. Kaguya applied to withdraw the matter through his newly appointed lawyer, Titus Kirui, who said Kaguya was no longer interested in pursuing this petition. Story by Joachim Bwana.
Let me ask you, all these things happening in 48 hours?
Yes.
So man came out, mi nataka withdraw ile kesi mimi nataka withdraw. Remember now, the second part of this is a different story. There's a case that we talked about here that has been filed by Okoh Mtata, who has gone to court and wants to court to compel the EACC from blocking aspirants who are implicated in graft or those whose integrity is questionable from participating in the coming elections.
Yes.
And the IEBC in response had said, much as we'd like to all sit here and talk about all these things, blah, 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 blah. My friend, the law, in fact, case law, bars us from doing this.
Eco-presidents.
There's precedents. 2 other agencies, however, say they can see the sense of what Okoh Mtata is asking for. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Commission on Administrative Justice. You know which one that is? Commission on Administrative Justice.
Yes, we met
It's the Ombudsman.
The Ombudsman, yeah.
Yeah. They say they like this idea. They took a different stand from the Electoral Commission when they maintained that only men and women of integrity should be on the ballot. EACC argues that those who have been indicted for abuse of office or are facing cases of misusing public office, violation of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, corruption or criminal charges should be kept off public office.
But let me ask this question, even as we get to the hour. Surely, is it not within our laws that someone is innocent until proven guilty?
It is.
So, what precedent will we be setting if, because someone has been accused, are we saying then we assume that they are guilty, even when we know full well that the case has not been concluded?
What we are saying is, let them not occupy public office, but let them not go to jail.
Since there's a stain somehow, until it is washed away, just hold on, sit small, then we can agree.
Wait for just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Meaning step aside.
Yeah. Yes.
It's yes.
All right.
It's just like saying.
If you step aside then, what if you now wish to vie? You also step aside.
Yes.
You don't vie.
It's basically that.
Yeah, that's it.
Unfortunately, the precedent in this one is a far, far more heavier precedent.
Now we can set a new one.
Actually, yes, we can. Your valid point. We can.
Step aside.
We can.
If they finish and they say nothing happened, by all means.
Next time, if there's a by-election, vie.
Absolutely.
Or in 2027, you can vie.
Yeah, exactly.
Just stay alive.
Stay alive. Stay clean.
Please. No more dipping.
Coming up to the top of the hour, remember, go to Naivas, buy Colgate.
Today's a good day to do that, actually, when you're stocking up on your monthly supplies and you need to get some toothpaste. Remember, every packet of toothpaste that you buy, 10 shillings of that goes to make sure that 120,000 more Kenyans have access to clean water. Colgate, with well boring, are sinking 30 more water wells by the end of the year. And you can help do this by buying some toothpaste at Naivas.
Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, let's see what's happening in Marsabit County. More death. Every day, we're told by Commissioner of NCIC, every day people are dying. We'll be speaking to people on the ground. 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Fallen soldier, third president of Kenya, Stanley Emilio Mwai Kibaki. My name is Dennis Aseto and welcome to Newswire. Now, 22nd of April 2022, the nation learned of the death of the third president of Kenya, Stanley Emilio Mwai Kibaki. This after President Uhuru Kenyatta made the announcement at the State House, Nairobi.
It is my sorrowful duty to announce to the nation the passing on of His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki, the third president. His Excellency Mwai Kibaki lived a dedicated life, and we salute a notable father figure in the chronicles of our nation, a leader who strove so hard and accomplished so much for this country, a nation he so deeply cherished and served with commitment and an unbending will to improve the lives of our people.
On 9th of April 2013, President Uhuru Kenyatta took his oath of office, having won the elections. Then and there to transfer power to him was Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki, a man who has been described as a gentle giant, gentle at how he handled issues, but never minced his words. Born on 15th of November 1931, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki served as the third president of Kenya from December 2002 until April 2013. He had previously served as the fourth vice president of Kenya for 10 years, from 1978 to 1988, under President Daniel Arap Moi. He also held cabinet ministerial positions in the Jomo Kenyatta and Daniel Arap Moi governments, including as Minister of Finance 1969 to 1981 under Kenyatta and Minister of Home Affairs 1982 to 1988 and Minister for Health 1988 to 1991 under Moi. On 29th of December 2002, still nursing injuries from a motor vehicle accident and in a wheelchair, Emilio Mwai Kibaki was sworn in as the third president and commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Kenya in front of thousands of cheering supporters at the historic Uhuru Park within Nairobi. At his inauguration, he stressed his opposition to government corruption, saying government would no longer be run on the whims of individuals. Kibaki swearing in marked the end of 4 decades of KANU rule, the party having ruled Kenya since independence. Moi, who had been in power for 24 years, began his retirement.
Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya. I am greatly honored for the confidence you have extended to me, and I promise not to let you down.
President Kibaki was a highly intelligent and competent technocrat. In January 2003, Kibaki introduced a free primary education initiative which brought over 1 million children who would not have been able to afford school the chance to attend. The initiative received positive attention, including praise from Bill Clinton, who met Kibaki in Kenya in July 2005. The Kibaki presidency set itself the main task of reviving and turning around the country after years of stagnation. President Kibaki, the economist whose term as finance minister in the 1970s is widely celebrated as outstanding, did much as president to repair the country's economy. Kenya's economy in the Kibaki has experienced a major turnaround. GDP growth picked up from a low of 0.6% in 2002 to 3% in 2003, 4.9% in 2004, 5.8% in 2005, 6% in 2006 and 7% in 2007. Then, after the post-election chaos and global financial crisis in 2008, it was at 1.7%, 2009, 2.6%, recovered to 5% in 2010 and 5% in 2011. Kibaki's tenure had all the technical aspects in it. He did his job and equally made Kenyans laugh. This was in 2005 when he was addressing cattle rustling problem.
Maana unakuwa na maana gani duniani ikiwa wewe kazi yako ni wizi wa ng'ombe? Kweli una maana gani? Huna maana wewe. Ni binadamu ya mavya kuku.
And when it rained and his officers were moving his entourage around, this was his reaction.
Hii mvua itakuwa ni kidogo, wewe hapana, hata gari yangu naona inatoroka yeye bure. Mwambie arudi nyuma. Ni pubafu kabisa.
Free primary education was big for Kibaki, and when some parents failed to take their children to school, Kibaki had this to say.
Na kuna mwenyewe hapa au ni mama au ni baba angali anajivuna kutembea mbele ya watu na hana aibu. Mtu kama huyo ni bure kabisa, anahitaji kutwagwa makofi.
During the elections campaign, and ruling youths were heckling the head of state, and a typical Kibaki, he never minced his words.
Na usije ukiwa popote ukishakula pombe. Ukweli ni kwamba hakuna haja wewe kula pombe hata ndio ukaneneme juu ya mtu wako. Hiyo wacha na mukule pombe huko mkiwa peke yenu.
Remember the Mombasa Republican Council who were pushing for secession? Kibaki had this for them.
Ikiwa unataka fujo, ndio tokea, tunataka kukuona. Lazima wa kila mtu, hakuna, hatutaki kuogopa yeyote. Yeyote ambaye hataki maendeleo mazuri, awe anataka kujenga Kenya yake, hiyo tutafuata na yeye atawacha tu.
The voter registration exercise has always been an important aspect of Kenyan politics, especially during the electioneering period, and Kibaki equally knew this.
If you just hang around and don't register, you are useless. No, true. You can't be useful. You can't be any use. Now, I think you are just... Anyway, let me not say that.
And finally, Kibaki, a master planner, spoke about family planning.
Sio lazima wewe kila siku ya pili ya tatu ati lazima uproduce mtoto. What the hell? Hapana. Hiyo ni kukosa adabu.
Kibaki has been eulogized by many, including those he worked closely with, including former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, his Deputy President Kalonzo Musyoka, and many other leaders.
It is a very sad occasion for the nation, the people of Kenya. We have lost the third president of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki is one of the freedom fighters of our country. He has served this country for many years with diligence, with fortitude, with honesty and transparency.
President Kibaki was never referred to as former President Kibaki. He was President Kibaki. So I want to wish President Uhuru Kenyatta God's speed and strength on behalf of all of us as we mourn our leader, President Kibaki.
As his state funeral continues today, we remember a man who changed the country for the better. We are stationed at Nyeri National Stadium and will bring you the latest as we bid His Excellency Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki goodbye ahead of his final interment in Othaya, Nyeri County. My name is Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Okay, still wet in certain parts of the city this morning, but traffic is not a problem, at least not just yet. We're looking at Mombasa Road, the southern bypass, going out towards Uhuru Highway, a little bit at that nook of Langata Road and Uhuru Highway this morning. Jogoro is looking pretty good. We had a little bit of traffic around the roundabout, then going towards Kamkunji, but that's not an issue right now. Coming out of Westlands, for once, free and clear. That dot of traffic that we normally see along Waiakiwe is not there this morning, and the Thika Superhighway looks really good. The most traffic you'll probably see today is in the city centre around Parliament buildings and heading out onto Huru Highway through the Nyayo National Stadium. But we'll be here to let you know what's going on. We'll keep an eye on things for you. Let us know, even from your bed, what it looks like. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
10 minutes after
down.
7. Good morning,
This
29th day of April 2022. A day we're saying goodbye to former President Mwai Kibaki. First day of half-term in Kenya. And CT has a proverb.
No. I've understood there's a proverb to be said. I was just according it what you call a dramatic pause.
Okay.
All right. 2 words. 3 actually. Pumbavu. Mavia kuku. Yes.
The ya is silent. Don't count it.
Yes, exactly. Associated with things that the immediate former, now late president, Mwai Kibaki, was associated with when describing situations and expressing his view of it.
Yes.
Now, illustrative as those words may be, you contextualize them, it gives you a clear indication of what he was saying. That when you sum all these things, the individuals I'm speaking of, not mentioning them by name, given these circumstances, these individuals are inconsequential. What a dramatic way to
Telling you.
Simply summarize it.
Wewe ni pumbavu.
Pumbavu.
Ama wewe ni binadamu ya mavya kuku.
Yes.
Bin Adam is what?
Bin Adam.
Human being.
Right. Yeah.
Bin Adam.
Yeah, Adam is being in Arabic. Yeah. Okay.
Human being.
Sawa.
Imagine. Wewe ni mavya kuku.
We've been reduced to droppings.
Yes, inconsequential.
Sheesh.
As I said.
And unlike droppings of a cow.
Oh, those ones you wade into it, you're going to remove that shell and you're going to clean it.
Yes.
Mavia kuku, you can walk over it and not even notice that you've walked over it. It's that inconsequential.
You have no impact at all.
Actually, none whatsoever. Unless it's collective and it's being used for something purposeful like fish feed.
Okay.
Wewe ni pumbavu, wewe ni bure kabisa, wewe ni binadamu ya mavya kuku. Hey.
You know those ones, he didn't say it carelessly. Mwai Kibaki was not known to be careless. No. If that's what he said, it was well thought out and he knew exactly what he was saying. Yes.
He had no time for...
No. Wasting our time, and yet you are inconsequential.
It doesn't sound any better.
I wasn't planning to make it sound any better.
It doesn't sound like...
It's just... Get out of here.
Yeah, just really.
Go and waste your time elsewhere.
Or somebody else's time.
Talk hapa.
Don't include us in this wastage of time.
Kwenda uko.
Yes, and uko is pointing with you. You push your lip uko, meaning far, far away, and you tilt your head upwards.
Good. Jesus. So the other day we were talking about Marsabit County. We've talked about insecurity in various parts of the country. Lamu, Laikipia. We go into the Kerio Valley. We talk about Elgeyo Marakwet. We talk about Baringo. We talk about West Pokot, Turkana. And in all these places, security forces are deployed, security forces come out, blah, blah, this and the other. Marsabit County has had a long history of unrest and violence. And it's all, every time we talk to people, they say, there's a political angle to it. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission has told us that they have done a lot of work on the ground, and they see every time they make several steps, there is some nonsense that is introduced by people who have political interest in this matter. So people just keep on being killed. Marsabit town is like a ghost town. A 70-year-old man is just shot in the streets of Marsabit town. Now, yesterday the news emerges of something that happened on Tuesday or Wednesday of livestock is stolen from a community. The community leaders go to the next community to have negotiations and conversation about how about you return our animals. This is between the Rendile and the Gabra, as reported. The Rendile chief, community leaders, plus MCA, they go and they're ambushed. Sprayed with bullets. At least five dead. Others are missing. It's not known whether they are in hiding or whether they've been killed. And police then had to deploy into this area to go and try and restore calm. But this is like Dr. Makori told us the other day, the INCIC is considering this a slow what? Genocide. And we just hear as a country and saying, yeah, we are deploying more officers on the ground. What exactly is going on? We want to talk to the people on the ground on this particular matter. And Paul Rotich is the Marsabit County Commissioner, and he joins us on the line just to get to understand the situation on the ground. We'll also shortly be speaking to Mr. Ambrose Harugura. Ambrose is a resident of Marsabit County. He is the chair of the Marsabit County Public Service Board. He's also very, very interested and close to this matter. Let's start with the County Commissioner. Bwana Rotich, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM. We understand that this particular incident, you have deployed officers on the ground and you've been trying to find those that have gone missing. Just give us a background of when did these attacks happen, what was the cause of the attacks, and where are we so far in terms of search and rescue?
I want to confirm that indeed, so far we have lost 5 people. We have lost 2 administrators and 3 civilians. All of them going after the stolen livestock, which happened on one of the evenings. We are still looking for 13 more individuals including this year. We deployed the officers yesterday to search for them, and that's when they found into the 5 bodies. The place is quite far from the nearest police station. It's close to almost 60 kilometers. It is not served by any telephone network, which makes it a little bit difficult to communicate. We are sending the officers again this morning. In fact, they have left. We asked for air support from Nairobi. Unfortunately, this morning it's raining heavily. Actually, it has rained overnight. And the cloud cover may not be able to be of help to the plane. And so we are waiting for the skies to clear up. This incident is very unfortunate. I want to say that the relationship between the two communities has been cordial. And this is an incident which we least expected. In the normal circumstance, when animals are stolen between communities, it's normal. It's normal for community leaders to take a lead in tracking and recovering the animals. And we have never encountered the incidences of attacking those vehicles after their property.
Sure.
This was very unique to us, and it was very shocking.
Bonaritish, I mean, definitely understanding what you're saying here about this incident. I mean, clear that it's come as a shocker to people in the community and also the country at large that it should not be happening in this manner. But something you mentioned as you started is that you're looking for 13 more individuals in terms of this hunt. Does this mean that you then are aware of who these individuals are?
Yes, one of them is the local member of county assembly. And 12 more people who are following the lead. Yes.
What happened? What led to this particular attack? I mean, this was a delegation that was going to negotiate over the return of the animals. How exactly did the raid and the theft of the livestock take place?
For sure, we cannot explain actually what happened, because the people who could have given us the clue on what caused the raid are still missing. And the other was the death. But we want to the information which people in earlier, late in the evening on Wednesday, was that the animals had been taken away by the raiders, and they were made the raid happened late in the evening, and therefore the recovery would not take place in the night, and that is why yesterday morning, very early in the morning, the police officers had to go and support them and help in getting those animals. That is not the only the death.
Stay on the line, the Bona Commissioner. We have Ambrose Harugura, who is also from this region. Ambrose, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Thank you very much for joining us, for speaking to us. Ambrose, just to confirm that you're still the chair of the County Public Service Board.
Yes, I
am. We've also seen you've even gone on to Twitter and you've condemned this incident and what happened, and you say it's unacceptable. There cannot be any logical explanation for this unprovoked, brutal and heinous act. And as we pray for the repose of their souls and the safety of those still at large, including the Loglogo MCA, you're demanding that government must do what it needs to do to not only trace the perpetrators of the despicable act, but to get the full hog and restore lasting peace in Marsabit. This is not an isolated incident, Ambrose. These incidents of insecurity have been rampant in the area. What's the issue?
Well, Eric, I think despite the fact that insecurity has been rampant and has been ongoing for some time in Marsabit, this can be also termed as an isolated one because, like the county commissioner has put it, it was unprovoked, it was unexpected, least expected, like we put it, because these are two communities that have been very cordial. The Renilo community particularly have been peaceful in Marsabit all this time that we have experienced skirmishes, and therefore for the aggressors again to play an ambush and in cold blood butcher community leaders, that cannot be attributed to the ongoing runaway insecurity in Marsabit. And just for them, I just saw a press statement from the National Police Service, in which part of it said that the preliminary reports indicate that the incident is linked to the recurrent conflict between two communities residents in the county. And I think that's also misplaced because the two communities that have been in conflict in Marsabit are not the two communities that are now being talked about. So this can become an incident that was unprovoked. It's not related to what has been going on in Marsabit. This is an incident of a community, attacking another community. Then when leaders try to follow through with peace efforts, then again they are killed in cold blood.
But then, Ambrose, do we know for sure? So we know that the community leaders are from the Rendila community, and the allegation here is that the attackers, that those who had taken the livestock, are from the Gabra community. Do we know for sure that the attackers are Gabra?
That one I cannot confirm. But like it has been put out there in the social media and also in the mainstream media, I think the fingers point in that direction.
There is something that has been mentioned time and again, and it's appeared in the papers, that the people who perpetrate these crimes are referred to as bandits.
Yeah.
Now, are we saying that every time there's been some incursion, there's been some insurrection, there's been some fighting, that it's this same group of people who we're referring to as bandits who've perpetrated this? And if indeed they're bandits, are we saying that the security operators have no clue who these bandits are?
I think refer to every perpetrator of an insecurity incident as bandits is diversionary. What we need to do is, what the government needs to do is act and use its intelligence and human resource on the ground to ensure that they follow through, so that we don't have anybody called a bandit or a particular community that we have to blame. As much as people come from communities, I think it's very clear that these people are acting on their own volition and committing these crimes, and therefore they should be followed and brought to book as individuals the way they committed these crimes. And not just blankly call them bandits or, militia from this community or the other.
If I can come back to you, Commissioner Latiff, obviously this is something that happened and everybody in the area then knew about it. And then the assumption is that these people could not have gotten very far. And I think we're interested to know then exactly what has happened to try and bring them to book, to have arrests made, because this is a replication of what we've seen in other parts of the country. Lamu, West Pokot, in the Kerio Valley, wherever you want to name, we've seen similar things happen, but then very difficult for us to see any kind of arrests made thereafter. Are we looking at a similar situation here yet again?
It's true that it may be very hard for us to exactly know the individuals who committed the crime. But I want to say that this is one area where there is rampant availability of illegal firearms in the hands of the locals. And this county is very expensive. And coupled with the availability of the weapons and the terrain, it makes the security operations a little bit difficult, and that is why it makes it very, very hard for us to get the raiders. But in this case, we want to give our best, because we also have that administrative structure on the ground, and we have some leading information that there are some people who are still around the area of the road, and possibly we want to zero in on those individuals so that we see how far we can go in commencing investigations.
There's also been sentiment, again, across board, that there could be some kind of external involvement, that these criminals, which I'm going to be bold enough to call them as just that, are being supported externally, because we know that conflict is not cheap business. There are weapons, there is ammunition that they're using regularly. They did not use 1 or 2 rounds yesterday, they used quite some. As security enforcement, do you see or do you also suspect that there is external involvement in this?
We don't want to confirm or deny. But one thing that we really need to appreciate is Marsabit is one area where we have a very long border with our neighbor. And you realize that we are also bordering the counties of Northeastern, which is very easy for the Nepalese to access the finance. The locals themselves are in possession of illegal firearms, and they could use the same firearms to carry out the criminal activities against their neighbors. That's why I don't want to rule on whether if there is an external involvement or not. But I want to stress that these are two communities which have been living in peace. They have been having cordial relationships, and whenever such incidences happen, it has been very easy for them to resolve without going the way of killing one another.
You know, the unfortunate thing, Bwana Commissioner, is that we are having this discussion against a backdrop of insecurity that has been rampant for a long period of time in that particular area. Are we supposed to assume that the government is unable to bring all these matters to an end?
The peace that is in the larger part of Mercy is because of the role of government. It is the responsibility of government to provide security and development for its people. Now, the only one spot that has been troubling the security officers has been the central south in Latiff. This is one area where you have almost everybody, and it is not. I don't want to say that it's gone out of hand. It is still a security situation that is manageable, and I want to assure everyone that we are on top of things and we are going to manage it. There should be no cause for alarm, despite the various incidences that has happened in the past. It is manageable. Yes.
You know, Bwana Commissioner, I would like to agree with you, but when we read of people dying almost on a daily basis, and they're being shot, and we even hear of incidences right in the middle of Marsabit town, I would like to take your word and be assured, but those circumstances aren't very assuring.
Let me say this. The situation in the CBD of Marsabit changed some 3 or 6 months. When the pattern of insecurity was perpetrated using the motorcycle. It never used to be there. And at one point we enforced the motorcycle ban in the town and the environs. And the death dropped significantly. And I want to say it dropped by almost 95%. But the ban which was implemented by the county security committee was lifted by the High Court and the border operations came back. And what we are doing now is we are streamlining that sector so that we ensure that criminals does not infiltrate it, and the security can manage it, and we are very sure that the killings in the CBD and the environment will come to an end.
Ambrose, from a community perspective, if you look at the insecurity, not just this particular incident, which you're saying is completely isolated, as it was unprovoked at all, but from a community perspective, what has been happening in Marsabit County over the years, what do you think is the long-lasting solution?
Well, Eric, I think this insecurity has been escalating slowly but slowly until I think the people of Marsabit almost became used to it. And while we commend the government for the efforts just put in place, including the ban that the county commission is talking about, I think the buck will still stop with the communities. The government has its role to play, and the community, the members of the community, the various communities have also a major role to play in terms of realizing that they are together in that particular county and they have to live together or perish together. Coming back to this particular incident, yesterday's incident, I think now it has gone to levels that have been unprecedented, levels we never expected. We're not talking about government. The heads of government in these communities are the local chiefs. And when the community information that chiefs who have gone out to risk their lives with unarmed civilians, community elders, to track stolen livestock, getting ambushed and killed in that kind of number, and up to now over 13 individuals whose fate is still unknown, that becomes a split on the face of the government. And therefore, I expect nothing short of firm action, particularly starting with this particular incident, by the government. Because now it's no longer the civilians that are being killed, even the government is being killed. So, and this comes in the wake of an operation that has been announced nationally by the Interior CS, which I guess yesterday was approved by the National Security Council, and we expected them to be on the ground like yesterday. In fact, if they were not going to start, particularly with where the epicenter of this particular incident, then I don't know where they will start and where they will start. The communities are desperate for peace in Macedonia. As we speak right now, the populations have been displaced from Macedonia. People who have been have moved out of Macedonia. The people who are left there are poor people who are left to butcher themselves, to butcher each other. So while we expect a lot from government, we also call upon the communities to realize that peace cannot be forced onto them. They have to learn to live peacefully as neighbors.
Ambrose, can I ask you, previously we've heard, and maybe in other parts, and I don't know if this would be the same here, that sometimes people feel as though the perpetrators are people within the community that they would otherwise know. Is this the same situation here now?
I think I'll leave that speculation and the confirmation or denial of the same to the state agencies that are let us in security, because the county commission is online. I think there's better intelligence than all of us. Speculations are there in times of breaches of peace and lack of the same. But I don't speculate here that they are perpetrators. We want to keep down this insecurity where it's happening. We'll have to arrest those people who are doing the real act so that they can tell us who their sponsors are.
But a county commissioner, we often hear people from Marsabit County complaining that even after every incident, you do not get to see the key perpetrators or the big names being held to account. All we see is the government asking the leadership of the communities to sit down and talk and negotiate. One such order was issued by the president a couple of days ago, but nobody is ever brought to book. When you're sitting there on the ground and you're getting all the intelligence from the community as the head of the security committee of the county, do you get the people's frustration?
First of all, I want to say that the communities in Marsabit, particularly in the Marsabit center, lack trust amongst themselves. We've been receiving very little cooperation in terms of arresting the perpetrators and prosecution and even attaining any conviction. There are quite a number of structures, the security structures that are in place, including the Nyumbakumi. And I want to say that the Nyumbakumi has failed to work in Marsabit. And what was the role of the Nyumbakumi? It was actually to aid the security organs in acquiring critical information that can help them to make arrests and prosecute criminals. We have failed in making arrests, and in circumstances where we've been successful in making arrests, we've seen people not coming forward to back up the cases, and therefore we lose cases just like that. Unfortunately, our people like the issue of revenge, and that is why there is cyclic killings, because people say, well, our person has died, we are going to do the same to this other community, and the conflict is perpetrated and continued like that. So it partially we also want to blame the community, because much as we want to deploy the police officers, it will never bring peace amongst the community. Communities themselves must play a critical role, and the security officers also will play this role. Indeed, there is frustration, and even the greatest frustration is amongst us who are serving in the security sector. Yes.
Brother Paul Rotich, Marsabit County Commissioner, thank you very much for speaking to us. Also, thank you, Ambrose Herugura, who is the chair of the Marsabit County Public Service Board. We thank you and all the best as you continue deploying the police and the security agencies, first of all, to find the 13 persons who are still missing, and to restore peace and calm in this area. And we also want to wish you all the best, Ambrose, and the rest of the communities, as you mourn the death of the 5 who've died so far. Asanteni sana for speaking to us.
Asante.
Thank you. It's 20 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. We take a quick break. Remember, $7.60 a month. Showmax. This is the time to subscribe to Showmax, because this long weekend, you get Crime and Justice Season 1. You get Crime and Justice Season 2. An episode of Crime and Justice about 50 minutes long. Mm-hmm. It's a proper, full episode. Mm-hmm. And it's not a series. Mm-hmm. So you watch an episode and it's done from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. You can even start from episode 10, you go to episode 1. But it's important to start from episode 1. You get to understand the characters better. Yeah. Crime and Justice Season 1 and Season 2. During this halftime break, just spend 760 shillings a month. Don't go out. 760 is cheaper than what you'd have done if you went out.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to SpiceFM.
Remember when Silas reminded McKenna?
There's different kinds of justice.
Prepare for the return of detective duo McKenna and Silas, fighting to protect their lives as they discover a justice system infiltrated by a mysterious cartel. So, will the law prevail? Get ready for Crime and Justice Season 2, A System Corrupted.
Watch Crime and Justice only on Showmax.com.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has anybody that kind of? Has anybody been
I will not listen.
Bit of advice, because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is
the rain is still coming down in Nairobi, 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 16. Partly sunny conditions at 16 in Eldoret. In Nakuru, highs of 21 and lows of 14. It's raining in Nyeri at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 15. And it's sunny in Eldoret at 15. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 13. It continues to rain in Mombasa at 26, highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 31 as well in a rainy Malindi, currently at 26. Mostly cloudy conditions at 21 in Kisumu, highs of 27. We'll see highs of 27 as well in Kakamega today, where it's mostly cloudy for now at 21. Kampala is raining at 21, highs of 23 and lows of 16, and partly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam this morning. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 24. In Johannesburg, it's clear at 11, highs of 20 and lows of 10, and Lagos is clear at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Clear conditions at 23 in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 22.
Chilled Spice.
All right, so we're reminded this morning that just to remember that some roads will be closed from about 8:30 this morning, and this is to provide for the movement of the military from the Parliament buildings out towards the Nyayo National Stadium. And so if you're trying to get into that part of the city and you realize that later it's closed, it's because of this. So heading from Parliament buildings out towards Nyayo National Stadium, parts of Harambe Avenue will be closed, and then onto Huru Highway from that junction from Parliament buildings out towards Uhuru Highway until you get to the Nyayo National Stadium. So if you're intent on using those roads, now will be the time to do so before they will be closed in about 45 minutes. Other parts of the city were not experiencing too much traffic this morning, likely not to. The Thika Superhighway looks pretty good, as does Mombasa Road. Kiambu Road, my goodness, just get away with no traffic. It's fantastic. Keep an eye on things this morning. Help us out as well. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life.
It is 13 minutes to 8 o'clock. You've heard what the county commissioner is saying, and you've heard what the community leader is saying. This particular incident is a shock to everybody. The particular incident where it is Gabra versus Rendile is not common. These are two communities that have been living harmoniously.
You know what I'm hearing, Eric? That when you have conflict between communities that are known to have conflict, then it is normal. So this one is raising eyebrows because it's abnormal, meaning conflict has been absorbed, it has been accepted as being normal. It has been accepted that it's normal for certain communities to be in conflict. Really, normal. These aren't arguments that people have and disagreements during a debating contest. People are dying on a daily basis. So how can it be that the death of people, irrespective of which community they come from, is normal?
I guess the normal here, City, is from the context of it is, we have experienced this before. We know that there is historical conflict between these other communities, but we also know in this particular two communities, we've not experienced. We have never experienced an incident such as this one. There's been no reason, nothing leading to this, no provocation, there's been no word on the ground, there was nothing at all that was indicating that there was a break in communications and relations between these two specific communities.
Okay. Now, this normalcy that they speak of,
yeah,
where there seem to be marauding gangs of people who are known to either commit crimes through what we refer to as banditry, or people who go around killing other communities in the name of revenging, in the name of upholding some values that the community they come from uphold. But the problem with such unruly groups is this. At some point, they become a law unto themselves. So this isn't some people who set out to kill. They set out to steal. Having stolen, they were not going to sit back and let themselves be caught.
Well, they've got to protect what they've stolen, right?
This is them now responding. And the response has led to what we are now discussing. Now, if the conflicts that we consider normal had been taken care of, it means the very people who perpetrate these crimes would have been brought to book at some point or the other. They haven't. And if they haven't, what makes you think that they will stop at just doing what is considered normal, attacking the normal communities that they normally attack? What makes you think?
Exactly. And and the fact that you've mentioned that all this time they've not been brought to book, then you cannot erase the element of suspicion that there's somebody who is protecting them, that there's somebody who is providing this ammunition and this weaponry, that there's somebody who is providing the space within which they can continue to attack. The kind of attack that we saw yesterday, I'm sorry, it's not the first. And I dare say that this group is not the first time that they've done something like this, because it was intentional. This is something that they have practiced.
Maybe it's not that they have ever done this to this particular community.
Of course not this particular
so
community,
this group has done
they're
it
well versed in the practice
community.
somewhere else.
Yes.
They're well versed in the practice elsewhere, right? And they know what to do. They know that, okay, we've stolen your heads of cattle. We know what is going to happen next. We know that somebody is going to come looking for them. And we know then that we now must protect this thing which we now fraudulently call our own. And one of the only ways that we're going to be able to do that is by ending life.
When you look at the theft of cattle, we've now entered the realm of an economic activity that these people are involved in. They are not stealing the cows for sport. It's not a sporting activity. It's a business venture. But what is also certain is that they are armed. And if I'm to go by what we heard the commissioner saying, they are well armed. Now, I'm confused here, thoroughly confused. The security and intelligence apparatus in this country, second to none. They are very good. We are now being told that ammunition comes into the country, weapons come into the country in large numbers. And we're talking about sophisticated weaponry. And we are saying that one doesn't know how they get into the country or who has them. In this country of Kenya,
sorry.
not possible.
Not possible.
Not possible.
Incredible.
Not possible.
No way.
Not possible.
And it's over. I mean, it isn't for 1 year, 2 years. It is many years. It is a situation that has led to the death of, now we're talking about administrators. Police bosses have died.
Yes.
Interior minister, assistant minister in the interior has died.
Yes.
Seeking peace in this region.
Do you not hear
And
what
the government
Ambrose
has
said?
just been sitting there.
Ambrose said look at what is happening in other parts of the country. They were killing members of the community. Now they've taken it a notch higher. And now they're killing security forces, security agents. How much more needs to happen in order for something to be done?
Well, they've understood it is possible to do so.
And get away with it.
Precisely.
And get away with it.
If they knew the repercussions would be dire, do you really think they would have ventured? They wouldn't have.
If they had seen any kind of previous action where somebody committed such a crime and then was arrested and charged, and then some kind of punishment was meted upon them, do you really think that they would then operate in the area with the free hand in which they have been? No, nothing has been done. Nothing adequate has been done about the insecurity situation. And I'm calling it we calling it a security situation.
It's an insecurity.
It's an insecurity situation. About the insecurity situation in these areas, nothing that can even be close to adequate has been done. So you have a people who are constantly living in fear. But guess what you're doing on the other side? This ammunition we're talking about is not just the guns and the bullets. The ammunition that you're also giving is confidence to these gangs to continue to do what they want, because you have shown them over the years that, number one, either you're not serious about bringing them to book, or you're afraid, or you know that the person who is controlling them intentionally, the person who is pulling the purse strings, is too powerful for you to do anything. So you've given them confidence over the years. You have people living in fear, and you have people building up their confidence on the other side. Until and unless you do something about it, these people are going to do worse. They will do worse to really show you who's the boss in town. And that's what they're doing now. Unafraid. They have unfettered access to the community. They can take the very thing which people peg their livelihoods on and then kill you if you come and ask questions. And nobody's asking them any questions. You don't have a hold on the security situation. You don't have a hold on the country.
That actually is the heart of the matter. And why I say what I'm saying is because we have had such situations in the country before, and they've been brought to a halt. The seriousness that the government took with these situations was evidenced in what I'm saying. It came to an end. The story of insurrection, people causing mayhem, killing, it came to an end. Why the Marsabit situation has been allowed to continue exacerbating, now that is what I find genuinely puzzling.
You know, so in 2006, this peace delegation that was heading to Marsabit to address a similar escalation of violence died when their plane, because of the kind of weather they are witnessing today, plane crashed into a mountain, right? The local MPs were all on this plane. There was North Horr MP Dr. Bonaya Godana, who was Uhuru's deputy as the deputy of official opposition. Okay? There was Saku MP Abdi Sasura, Laisamis MP Titus Ngoyani, Moyale's Dr. Gurache Galgalo. There was Assistant Minister Miruge Kariuki, Bishop William Wako. These were all heading on a peace mission.
Finished.
Their death just amounted to nothing. Since then, we haven't seen anything like this. We just see, threats, words here and there, and nothing.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
It
does. Leave a hole somewhere.
It does.
We're going to fill it up.
After that plane crash, though, the intense levels of insecurity and fighting and killing that we had seen went down. It did go down. But as you say, nature abhors a vacuum. So whoever had been holding the helm, some other people took over. Now, the unfortunate thing about the discussions about that insecurity, it's those who are known to be elected leaders, unfortunately, are the people at whom fingers are pointed. Unfortunately. Consistently. Is it not the same story we hear in Laikipia? Is it not the same story we hear in the Kerio Valley? Is it not the same story we hear in the Pokot and the Baringo area? Same story.
Such jokes.
People who have been elected.
Kabisa.
Yes,
jokes.
Same.
Jokes.
Just like Andrew Franklin is saying, the endemic insecurity across northern Kenya, especially over the last decades, is an existential threat to this country.
It is.
If you don't have
police
a
officers
hold.
Killed in Suguta, police officers killed in Kapedo. 40 cops were killed in one day.
Yes.
40.
Surely. What does that tell you?
You know the way I say that if you look at the state of your most vulnerable in the country, that is actually the state of the country. You can measure it in terms of strength or weakness, but that's what you have. It's the same thing here that we're talking about. You don't have a hold on your security situation in the country. You do not have a hold of the country. You do not. It doesn't matter what measure you're looking at. You have people who are being slaughtered on a daily basis, and you're not able, or I dare say you're not willing to do something about it. You do not have a hold on the country. That means internally there is conflict of this manner. External threats, then, what are we talking about? External threats, then, what can happen? If you're going to allow the control of an area, insecurity-wise, in the hands of a few, and choose not to do something about it, You're letting people know exactly what your hand is. You don't even have to hide it. You're showing your hand.
So Colgate has been doing some positive work in the country. And in association with Well Boring, a UK NGO, they have worked in 7 counties and they've sunk 90 wells in the last 4 years in schools. So the wells are being dug in schools, so they are accessible to the community. You see, schools are community establishments.
Yeah.
So people in the school community and people in the neighboring communities can all access water from these particular wells. And they want to do 30 more by the end of this year. And they're saying, let's work together with this on this particular venture. Come and buy Colgate at a Naivas supermarket. And 10 bob goes into?
10 bob will go towards making sure that 30 more of these wells are sunk. So your money goes directly to making that happen. For 120,000 more Kenyans, just imagine how difficult it is to not have water on a daily basis for all the things that you need. So buying Colgate at Naivas will make it possible for more families to have water.
Indeed. And they say thank you very much because they've noticed that many people have actually been heeding this call and buying Colgate in Naivas, which is a good thing. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we talk to Katiba Institute Executive Director Christine Konge on the requirement that all political parties must meet the 2/3 gender threshold. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice
Good morning, this is Nito. I'm Dennis Aseto. Kenyans continue to arrive at the Nyeri National Stadium to attend the funeral service for the late Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. It should be noted that the public was required to be sitting by 8 a.m. Those that are present at the venue say they braved the morning rain and cold weather so that they could pay their last respect to the late president because he served Kenyans well and improved the country's economy. So far, the body has not left the Lee Funeral Home for State House before making way for Nyayo National Stadium, although activities can be seen at the funeral home. We are stationed at the Lee Funeral Home and State House and will be bringing you the latest. Now, former Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has dropped her Nyandarua gubernatorial bid in favor of the incumbent Governor Francis Kimemia. Kariuki said she had decided to pave way for the sitting governor after deep soul-searching and deep reflection. Kariuki stated that despite pollsters ranking her as one of the leading candidates, she had resorted to bow out of the race to avoid an ending stalemate within the political outfit.
As I change tack, I will continue to support the Jubilee Party, evidenced by where I'm issuing this statement from. I will also continue to support Azimio Coalition and the candidates who are vying under Jubilee Party and Azimio Coalition at the county level, at the regional level, at the national level. Furthermore, I will apply myself in supporting not only the party, but also our presidential candidate under Azimio Coalition, His Excellency the Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto has reiterated his commitment to a free and fair election in August and challenged his opponents to make the same pronouncements. Ruto spoke when he hosted the Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland at his current office. At the same time, Ruto exuded confidence that the United Democratic Party will win a majority of the elective seats in the election in August. The DP also met various aspirants from the party who won in the party primaries as well as those who lost and have agreed to support the winners. Now, a program initiated by the judiciary and the prison services will see an estimated 5,000 petty offenders released from prison in the coming months to decongest the facilities. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says the planned release will begin next month and will run in tandem with the expansion of probation and after-service program targeting the reintegration of the offenders. The CS said prisons are struggling with congestion following an increase of petty offenders among the inmates. Now, the High Court declined to issue orders allowing independent candidates in the August polls to form a coalition. Justice Anthony Mrima ruled that there will be a constitutional crisis if orders sought are granted. He also ruled that the petitioners will not suffer any prejudice. The court also noted that the electoral process will be held in limbo and interfere with the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission election timelines. A group of independent candidates had petitioned the High Court to allow them to form a coalition ahead of the August 9th general election. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has reiterated government's commitment to ensuring full implementation of the universal health coverage in efforts to achieve equality in the sector. Kagwe said the reforms made under the UHC have turned around the state of healthcare services and facilities in the country. Kagwe, who took over the ministry's leadership mantle at a time when COVID-19 pandemic had just struck, now says the crisis brought about key transformations. Now, the government is in the process of setting up a fish value addition to enhance efficiency for small-scale fish farmers in the country. Director in the State Department for Fisheries, Aquaculture and Blue Economy, Dr. Roderick Kundu, says the government will also enhance training for the youth in regions that rely on fisheries as their main economic activity. Speaking during an ongoing meeting in Nairobi, bringing together stakeholders and partners promoting the fisheries sector in Eastern Africa, Southern Africa and Indian Ocean region, the Director in the State Department for Fisheries, Aquaculture and Blue Economy, Kundu, said the government is drafting regulations that will allow small-scale fishermen to access fisheries resources and embark on joint ventures beyond the Kenyan exclusive economic zone. He said plans are underway to equip the youth with skills to engage in fisheries profitability and sustainability. And police in Nyeri are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of an administration police officer whose body was found inside his house. Preliminary investigations indicate the officer of the rank of a constable and in his late 30s shot himself in the head using his firearm. At the time of the incident, he is said to have been living alone in a rented house behind the Central Region Kenya Revenue Authority's headquarters. A staffing officer attached to the Regional AP Commander's office said the deceased had recently been taken for rehabilitation due to a drinking problem and had shown remarkable improvement on coming back. Upon resuming work, he was assigned light duties at the regional offices and had never shown any sign of mental disturbance. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
All right, so we're looking at traffic still building up in certain parts of the city this morning. It's not going to happen majorly. So in about 30 minutes or so, you will not be able to use the following roads. We're looking at coming down from Arwings Kodek, from the Lee Funeral Home, and then Valley Road, that will be closed. Going towards Kenyatta Avenue. State House Road definitely will be closed. And also Processional Way out towards Kenyatta Avenue and Uhuru Highway this morning, all the way through to the Nyeri National Stadium. This is via Airdrome Road this morning. We're also looking at around the Bunyala roundabout. So you will not be able to use those at least for the next 2 hours because of road closure as the cortege leaves Lee Funeral Home all the way to the Nyeri National Stadium. And that's what traffic will look like. So you might want to think about alternate routes or wait it out until that is over. Apart from that, nothing much else happening on roads this morning. Not to forget, you might want to go quicker because there's no traffic, but the roads are slippery because of the rain. So please be careful. Let's talk, guys, on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 8 minutes of the 8th.
This is the Situation Room,
day of
the
April
only way to
2022, first day of midterm. The country is on midterm, and this is the day when you have the state funeral for the late third President of the Republic of Kenya, Mwai Kibaki. We continue. It's CT Muga, Okoh, Eric Latiff. We have a guest in the studio from the Katiba Institute. The Executive Director, Christine Konge, is here with us. We want to talk about the new IEBC circular and the letter to the political parties on the decision of the High Court a couple of years ago. But before we get into that conversation, the day's proverb?
The day's saying.
Yeah.
I direct reference to Bin Adam from our immediate late and former president, Daniel Arap Moi. No, Mwai Kibaki in this case. This is one of the things you have when presidents pass away close to each other.
Yes.
2020, 2022. But this one is Mwai Kibaki. I'm taking excerpts. Wewe ni binadamu bure. Meaning, as a human being, your value is to be questioned. Okay?
Useless.
Yes. The same wewe, meaning you, this individual who's unnamed, ni mavi ya kuku. Essentially, you are chicken droppings. Okay? Now, if the first sentence hadn't given you a clear indication of what you are thought of, this one now cements it, meaning you are inconsequential. And we sum it up by saying, wewe ni bure kabisa.
Pumbavu.
Yes.
Pumbavu, bure, wewe ni binadamu ya mavi ya kuku. What does chicken dropping city equate to inconsequential?
It is, because it's something that if you compare it to other droppings of, say, larger animals, larger creatures like cows, you cannot ignore a cow dropping. If you step on it, you will know you've stepped on it. Chicken dropping, you can step on it and not even be aware you've stepped on it. In most cases, you will actually not even be aware. So if someone compares you to chicken droppings...
Good Lord.
Yes.
Inconsequential completely.
Absolutely so.
Oh,
but the Pumbavu element now adds a twist to it, because it now refers to you as the individual and your state of mind. Thoughtless, someone who doesn't consider things. So in other words, if you're referred to as foolish, it isn't an insult. It's a description.
Maana unakuwa na maana gani duniani ikiwa wewe kazi yako ni wizi wa ng'ombe? Kweli una maana gani? Una maana wewe ni binadamu ya mavi ya kuku.
Ni wizi ya ng'ombe wewe.
Takes me back.
You're consuming our oxygen.
Surely. Of all the careers available to mankind, that is a career you have chosen.
Bure kabisa. Christine, welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you, Eric.
And thank you for joining us. Happy midterm.
Thank you.
And also, as we have to remember why, particularly these days, a public holiday, is because we are remembering the late former president, Mwai Kibaki. Yesterday, we had this conversation because the day before yesterday, the IEBC wrote to political parties and they brought a matter to their attention as if the political parties were not aware of this. But just assuming that political parties had just been born, Wafula Chebukati, the chairman of the IEBC, wrote to them and reminded them that Katiba Institute had gone to court in 2017 on the matter of the two-third gender principle and application of it. And the High Court had addressed itself on this matter and issued several orders touching on political parties and touching on the IEBC. You are Katiba Institute's executive director. So just give us a background. What did you seek when you were going to court?
Okay. So I think to even understand this matter better, we need to go way back to the 2010 Constitution, which we passed on 27th of August 2010. And this constitution was required to be a transformative constitution to transform our society politically, economically, and socially. So the idea was to address past ills or past mistakes and therefore move the society to a more inclusive and democratic society. An inclusive society also mandates inclusion of all persons or gender in governance. So that's why this constitution required, under Article 10, inclusivity, participation of the people, equality. Those are values and principles of governance. When we are making any law, any policy, any government practice, we need to have those principles in mind. Then the Constitution then said, under our electoral system, One of the governing principles is that not more than 2/3 of any elective body shall be of one single gender. So either gender cannot be more than 2/3. And then we have, under the Bill of Rights, Article 27 on equality, which says women and men should have equal opportunities in employment, in political, in economic and social spheres. Then now we go under the same Article 27, a requirement that under elective and appointive positions, we should not have more than 2/3 members of anybody being of a single gender. And Article 100 actually said, Parliament, you are under an obligation to pass legislation to actualize this principle. The Constitution said any law that was required for the better regulation of any aspect of the Constitution needed to be passed within 5 years of the Constitution coming to force. That is 27th of August 2015. That was the deadline. And Parliament could extend it by 1 year. So the deadline, in essence, was 27th of August 2016. All laws to regulate different aspects of the Constitution were needed to be passed by Parliament. So let's go back again. Around 2012, just before the first elections under the 2010 Constitution, the Attorney General went to the Supreme Court to seek an advisory opinion on whether the 2/3 principle, 2/3 gender principle, was immediately realizable during the 4th March 2013 elections. And the Supreme Court said because the context, the legal framework had not been put in place, so it was not immediately realizable except for county assemblies. And they gave a deadline of 27th of August 2015 by when Parliament should have passed the legislation. The deadline came and passed, no legislation. In 2016, a number of organizations, civil society organizations, after the deadline passed, went to the High Court and said Parliament is in contravention of the advisory opinion, and the advisory opinion, as the Supreme Court has said, are binding. Then the court said, actually, it's correct. They have gone beyond the deadline. Persons have applied to court for redress. The court gave Parliament some more time, 60 days. Get your house in order, pass this. They appealed. The Court of Appeal said, no, you had a deadline, you extended it by 1 year, and you still had not passed the law. And this is in 2019 when they're appealing. So Parliament, on the basis of this, then parties, the Chief Justice wrote an advisory to the to President saying Parliament should be dissolved, because of failure of passing the necessary laws. And that process was only stopped because the Parliament went to court, and that's pending in court right now. So we can see we've had a long struggle of trying to realize 2/3 gender principle in this country. And what Katiba Institute thought, because Parliament does not seem to be invested in passing a law, and because the Constitution says it can either be legal measures or other measures, why don't we go to court to actually have the court expound on this principle of other measures to realize the 2/3 gender principle? And that's why we went to court on the basis that IBC has a mandate under the Constitution to regulate the nomination process for political parties. And within that process, they need to ensure political parties have complied with the law. And one of the legal requirements is 2/3 gender compliance, including in the nomination process. And so the court agreed with us and said a reading of the Constitution indicates all bodies, whether they are political parties, whether it's IBC, or whether it's Parliament, they are bound by the Constitution. They are subject to it. So IBC has the obligation to regulate the process of political parties' nominations. And one of the requirements is gender compliance. So when they're approving the party lists, the nomination list, they must ensure it's 2/3 gender compliant. They have an obligation.
So, Christine, all of these, there are very many elements to this, and they all come together to make, part of this big piece. Now, before we go to whether Parliament was invested in actually having done, because we saw the whole chronology of lack of quorum. I think lack of quorum was cited 4 times. We also saw that there was the appeal process. So obviously then they could not debate in the House when an appeal process then was taking place, etc., etc., etc. We saw now another 3 years down the line, nothing was done. So I mean, we could probably discuss for days about whether Parliament was interested in doing this or not. But I think it is also important to look at the import of this rule so that we can now then understand what is happening with IEBC at the nomination process. What exactly are we asking for here with this 2/3 gender representation? What exactly are we saying? Because there may be misinformation that folks think there is almost forcibility element that is saying you must put a woman or a man in this position. What exactly are we saying here?
Okay. I think we all agree that political parties are gatekeepers to the composition of Parliament, right?
Yep.
You need to have a ticket supported by a political party or as an independent candidate for you to be able to get yourself into Parliament. So, of course, then Parliament is a critical vehicle through which we can achieve that gender composition in Parliament, because they are the ones who determine who at the ultimate, at the very end, will get into Parliament. So that is one of the main reasons why political parties need to be aware and need to implement this law. But more than that, going back to your question, it's because the Constitution requires it. We enacted this constitution for ourselves with the realization of historical injustices that had occurred before because of improper or unbalanced representation of women in Parliament. We had instances whereby you would get discriminatory laws, policies, practices being passed because of the lack of voices of women to be able to advocate for some of these issues. And because of the fact that women are critical members of this society as well, they should have a say in the governance of this country. I mean, the last census basically said we are almost 50-50. We are essentially 50-50. So you're actually removing equal representation to half of the population, and with that comes many other disadvantages.
So we're saying at the very least, let them be up for selection.
Yes.
Let them at least be there to make a decision, because in the past, they were precluded from even being on the selection panel, as it were.
Exactly. So the idea is that it's now for political parties to carry out their work of finding women who agree to their political ideology and therefore are willing to run under their party tickets, and actually to ensure that those women are given opportunities within the party nomination process to run for different elective positions.
But you see, there are those who would argue that is coming with the assumption that political parties have made deliberate efforts in the opposite. That political parties have programs that suppress women's voices and women participation in the party processes. And political parties will come and tell you, no, we are an open party. In fact, if you look at our membership, a majority of our members are women. Now, if from a majority of our members, it's not a majority that seek elective posts, we have not been the ones who have stopped them from doing that. In fact, we encourage members to apply to be leaders of the party, and they're the ones who haven't. So what exactly is it that political parties are expected to do in this particular case?
Okay. They're supposed to take deliberate guidelines and measures within their nomination rules to ensure that whatever nomination processes they undertake result in a gender-compliant party list. Nomination list. And let's not forget the history of patriarchy in our society. Entrenched patriarchy in our society, so that you don't even need to do anything. You might do seemingly innocent measures with no ill intent, but still result in discriminatory result because of the system. The system itself would result in that in that result. You don't even have to intentionally say we are suppressing the voice of women or oppressing the voice of women. But the system itself will lead to such a result unless we take intentional measures to change that system.
What intentional measures? If today Christine Konge became a leader of a political party, what would you do that you haven't seen been done with the other political parties? What are these intentional measures that a political party could take?
It could come in many forms. And that's why this decision did not say you need to do it in A, B, C. It said, I'll give you the freedom to devise whichever method that you think you'd need to ensure this result. It could be, like has happened in some other places, that you say for certain elective positions, we are only, and in certain regions, in certain territories, we are only allowing for women candidates to come up for nomination. It could be that you decide that, for us to meet this quota, we need to ensure that we increase our representation of special seats also. But it has to be a method which will guarantee a certain results. And the most direct one is the one where you actually say for certain positions in certain territories.
So you ring fence some constituencies and areas and
exactly.
Say female candidates only.
Yes, that could be one of the methods where you come up with this.
I actually find this argument that has been put forth by some legal minds and maybe politicians about how it is they encourage women within their ranks to vie for position, or they encourage them to participate in the process. It's disingenuous in this sense. The opportunity to actually legislate these things, unfortunately, speaks of the complete opposite in terms of their participation. Because every time these issues came to Parliament, something or the other that ensured that the whole process would be aborted is what occurred. And we've seen instances when other issues come to Parliament, especially when they're discussing things like raising their remuneration, salaries, what are the other things that they get called?
Allowances.
Yes, that's the thing I was referring to. My friend, Parliament is chock-a-blocked. So, yes, they say, but by not putting in place what you call affirmative action, things that are deliberate, then that argument of theirs, unfortunately, is mute. Because what exactly are you saying if you're not doing it? What have you done to actually prove that what you're saying is what you mean?
I want to play the devil's advocate on this conversation. You know my position on this. I am a biggest supporter of this particular principle. But is it possible that political parties and even members of parliament are actually reflecting what the society thinks and what the society feels? And I say this with full cognizance of what we heard from the callers yesterday. Many of the callers who, when we were having this conversation and saying, is it because, is it a good thing that the IEBC has now come and drawn a line in the sand? People are calling and saying, but look, this thing cannot work. It's not realizable. Is it that there's no sufficient pressure from the ground? There's no sufficient either understanding or buy-in by, let's even start with the members of political parties who include women on this whole hula baloo of, let's have a third gender, two-third. It's one of those things that are,
Christine, maybe you can shed some light on this as well, because I think about it and just what Eric is saying, that maybe it's just a reflection of what society wants and says, you know what, we as members of parliament, legislators, we're only just expressing what society wants. But if I can liken it to what happened with female education, that the society believed for the longest time, traditionally, that young girls should not go to school, that their future was vested in whom they shall marry and to whom they shall bear children forever. It was until some men in the society, same society who said that they did not want these children to go to school, insisted that their daughters go to school. It was after the education process that the rest of the society began to see the benefits of sending girls to school. It was somebody who went against the grain and said, I am sending this girl to school, let us see what will happen thereafter. It was then that the society began to change. Are we then saying, look, You may think that this is your traditional way of thinking, but let them be up for selection, and then you will see what will happen. If it doesn't, fine. But wait and see what will happen if you at least give them an option, give them a chance to be selected. We know that on your own, you will not make the choice. But now let us almost ring fence and see the benefits that will occur when you have somebody in that position.
And exactly that's it. Because just carrying your argument forward, if we have accepted that we should educate our women, we should educate our girls because it promotes their, economic and social and just general outlook in life. It increases them, the ability of them to live a more dignified life, right? So if we've said that that is proper, that is right, are we saying that these highly educated women therefore do not have anything to offer in terms of governance and leadership in different spheres of our society? Because that's the logical conclusion I would take that to. What we are trying to say is this. I think when the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission was going around the country seeking views on what the problems we are facing under the previous constitutional regime. And one of the issues that came up, which was not actually a disputed issue, was the issue of representation of women, greater representation of women in governance. They indicate, and in fact, at the CKRC report level, they had even given a formula of how to achieve that representation in women. If it was single constituency member voting, they had provided for a third of the list, of the party list. If it was proportional representative voting, they had provided for 50% of that, so that at the end of the process, you would have a conclusion whereby you have a third of the membership being women. So the fact that the people of Kenya voted in this constitution overwhelmingly means that they were convinced about the place of women in society. So I think this, what can I call it, a narrative, is so before even we try this solution, we are already saying it's going to fail. And that is still, I would think, a hold up from the old system, this old patriarchal system, that even before we try it and see how it will work, as you said, let us put their names on the ballots. Let them be on the playing field, and we see the result of that. Because this is just one of other measures that we could employ in ensuring to that gender representation. If countries like Rwanda have been able to do that, where they have quite a large number in political governance being women, I think we can also be able to do this. It's just we need to try it first. Don't put roadblocks in front of this process. And moreover, this announcement by IBC is about 5 years after the court decision. Political parties had 5 years to seek advice, to brainstorm, to do everything they needed to do to be able to ensure the nomination process that is supposed to end this week. They will have complied, and they have not done that. And this decision was not appealed, so this decision is binding. So it cannot be that at this moment is then we are acting surprised. This provision is already also in the Political Parties Act. In fact, the recent amendments to the Political Parties Act by Parliament actually bolstered the ideal of two-thirds gender representation by political parties. They said political parties shall promote two-thirds gender compliance in their nomination processes. This amendment took effect on 27th of February this year. So if they are even themselves giving the understanding they have this requirement, I do not believe it is genuine to right now act surprised and say this will not work.
Actually, no.
Surely they reserve the right to be surprised at anything.
They may have assented to it, but it's now that the consequences are dawning on them. Goodness gracious me, you mean this is what we did?
And this is what will happen.
Guys, I want to remind you again.
Yes.
Political party is not just the owner of the party.
Yeah.
They are the people who claim to be the members of the party and who claim to be the supporters of the party.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a word from members of parties, from supporters of parties, even in those 5 years. And that's my point. Why is it that the memberships of these political parties have been quiet.
You know, IBC and political parties have had the obligation to publicize this decision.
Yes.
It could be that some members, this is the first time they're hearing about this decision.
All these members are aware of the Constitution.
They could be aware of, but they are aware of the Constitution.
Yes.
As you said, because they passed the Constitution by 67%.
An overwhelming majority of Kenyans voted this formula.
Exactly. So it is not a surprise. It really is not a surprise.
The thing that I find interesting, you see, when you talk about political party members, are political party members known to express a uniqueness of perspective, or are they known to follow the loud shouts of their leaders, or to follow the wind and the trend that is at that particular point in time considered to be fashionable? Look, that we have in this debate tells you there's resistance. That it's a subject of this debate and is getting more intense tells you that
something.
Those who already are in positions who feel that they are likely to occupy certain positions are not happy, because the moment you include affirmative action, some of them see their chances reduced automatically. Yes.
You see,
they
this is
would
not
listen. I want us to take a break and then continue this. 26 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room on SpiceFM, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on KTN Home. Christine Nkonge is the Executive Director of Katiba Institute. We are talking about this requirement that political parties must meet the two-third gender principle when they're presenting their nomination lists to the IEBC. Selfie game.
Indeed. Take a picture of yourself when you can't remember things. Take a picture of something. Oppo Reno 7 wants to remind you about that. Your selfie game is guaranteed to level up with each snap. And this is with the new Oppo Reno 7. Every moment shall not just be captured, but captured in spectacular fashion. So none of this business of forgetting. When you have the Oppo Reno 7 in sunset orange with its top of the line spectacularly captured, when you have the 64MP A1 triple camera. So everything can be captured in great quality, whether it's a birthday, wedding, political nomination. You can trust the Oppo Reno 7 to capture unlimited moments in highest quality.
Do you know which roads are being closed this morning to allow for the cortege carrying the late President Mwai Kibaki to get from Lee Funeral Home to Nyayo Stadium? And we will be telling you that shortly.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2000-2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There's no Kikuyu pothole, low lack of water, or Kamba, lack of traffic. There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The rain is still coming down in Nairobi. 18 degrees this morning. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's sunny in Nakuru at 16, highs of 21. Rain showers continue in Nyeri at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 25. And we'll see mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 17, highs of 22 and lows of 13. It's still raining in Mombasa at 26, highs of 31. 31 will also be the high in a rainy Malindi at 28. Mostly cloudy conditions at 22 in Kisumu, highs of 27 and lows of 18. And Kakamega is cloudy at 22, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Looking at a rainy morning in Kampala as well at 21, highs of 23. And it's partly sunny this morning in Dar es Salaam at 26, goes highs of 30 and lows of 25. Sunny conditions at 12 in Johannesburg, highs of 21 and lows of 10. And Lagos is now mostly clear at 26, highs of 32. 31 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa, currently at 23. All right, we already know there's not much traffic on the roads this morning, but we know that some roads will be clear. A few folks going back and forth in and out of the city, and we've seen quite some accidents this morning. The roads are slippery, folks. Please be as careful as you can. We will see road closure this morning as the cortege of the late former president Mwai Kibaki leaves the Lee Funeral Home. Arwings Quebec will be closed, probably already is by now. Valley Road at the roundabout, down Valley Road towards Kenyatta Avenue, and we're looking at State House Road being closed as well as Processional Way, going then towards Kenyatta Avenue, onto Huru Highway at the Haile Selassie roundabout, and then to the Bunyala Road roundabout, Aerodrome Road, and to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. You will not be able to use those roads. So if you're going to places in that vicinity, you're going to have to go the long way because we've already seen those road closures take place. Let's not get in traffic when it's not necessary, shall we? Let's talk, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
21 minutes to 9.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We continue this conversation.
Locally produced crime drama. It's on Showmax. But for you to access this delightful drama, 760 Kenya shillings you pay. Subscription given to you. Then in addition to this, sports, a documentary, a telenovela, a series, etc., etc.
Okay.
At your doorstep.
Exactly.
Now that Uhuru has given the whole country half term,
yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Bas.
I just now need to sort out my. Now it is Showmax and what and watch. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And if you have, and if you have directors in the house who masquerade as children, okay.
Yes. True.
Hey, there's also an arrangement where they can be included.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Christine, back to the conversation. Wafula Chebukati has written to the political parties. Political parties, some of them are saying, buana, no, you misinterpret what was said by the court. I'm going to read, this is what was written by Professor Tom Ojienda, Senior Counsel Professor Tom Ojienda, who is vying to be the next member of the Senate for Kisumu County, nominated by ODM. And he has written to his party's National Elections Board telling them, my friends, I wish to I write to you in objection to the IEBC circular on the implementation of the 2/3 gender principle issued to all registered political parties yesterday, the 27th of April. The said IEBC circular is sub judice. The circular also misinterprets the 2/3 gender principle as envisaged in the Constitution of Kenya. Moreover, the circular infringes on the democratic principles and the principle of universal suffrage upon which Kenya's electoral system and the processes are anchored. In the circular, IEBC is purporting to implement the decision in the High Court. IEBC then proceeds to purportedly interpret the said decision and apply it to political party nominations pertaining to the 290 constituencies and the 47 counties. I object to the circular on the following grounds. 1, the matter of implementation of the 2/3 gender principle as pronounced by the High Court in that particular matter is the subject of an ongoing court process. 2, the IEBC circular misinterprets the 2/3 gender principle as set out in the Constitution, Article 81B, which says that not more than 2/3 of the members of elective public bodies shall be of the same gender. It's unconstitutional and contrary to this article of the Constitution to apply this principle on the 290 constituencies and the 447 Senate seats. He also says implementing this directive as suggested in the circular is bound to offend the gender aspirations of the Constitution because it fails to take into account several issues. 1, the special seats specifically set aside for 47 county woman reps. It also forgets about the additional 12 nominated members of the National Assembly and the 16 seats set aside for female-nominated senators, and the 4 persons to be nominated in the Senate to represent youth and persons with disabilities. He's basically saying, look, IBC is just getting it wrong. This thing, IBC is overstepping.
Okay. So I do not agree with senior counsel at all. First and foremost, I think he has misapprehended our decision, the Katiba Institute decision, and the other case that is pending before the court, and therefore the use of sub judice here is not applicable. The case that is before court is the one that is talking about legislation to ensure two-thirds gender compliance. Our case is not about legislation, it's other measures to ensure compliance with the constitutional mandate of two-thirds gender. So it's not sub judice at all. This decision...
Sub judice means?
Sub judice is, you cannot, it's basically like if something is pending in court, you cannot give an opinion on it because then that could embarrass the court later on if the court was to say something different.
It might interfere with the process.
Yes, it might interfere with the process. Okay. So basically, our decision is settled. It is now law, because law in this country can be created in different ways, either through parliament or court decisions. Because this decision was not appealed, it is now settled law, and they cannot get away from it. Okay. And if IBC does not implement, then they will be in contravention of the law. So basically, you are asking IBC to contravene the law, because they must abide by this court decision.
Their hands are tied.
Their hands are tied. Their hands are tied because it's now law.
So contrary to what some folks have been saying, that what we're seeing now is the proverbial gnashing of teeth of IEBC. That's not the case. No. All they're doing basically is translating or rather implementing what the court has said. Say, folks, you need to do this, otherwise we will not allow you to move forward.
IBC is obeying the law. It's actually obeying the law, because otherwise it's just basically telling IBC to be in contravention of the law, and that will subject them to other penalties under the legal system, because you cannot be in contempt of court decisions. So I do understand where he's coming from.
Where is he coming from?
I do not know. Basically, let me rephrase it. I do not understand.
He's an interested party. You see,
yes, where he's coming from. Maybe because
IBC has said, if, let's say now, he has been nominated by ODM, if ODM presents a list of nominated senators and that list is not compliant with the two-thirds gender rule, the full list, including Tomo Gender, SC,
all of you,
is rejected.
Is rejected.
You know, I was listening to what you're reading,
because now there's blood in the water.
And I was thinking to myself, yes, as a layman, it's legalese, yes. But are these not the sort of argument that should have been presented to court, say, on appeal?
Exactly.
And say, okay, we've seen this decision, but given A, B, C, D, and X, Y, Z that has preceded 1, 2, 3, then perhaps, but coming now, surely.
But isn't it just practice that we see, that courts will say things in this country and they're not really going to pay any attention to them because there is this thinking, fallacious as it might be, that nobody's actually going to do anything about it. It will not be implemented. It will not be insisted upon, and thinking that this is just another opportunity to jump past the court order. But here the folks are saying, sorry, we're not going to allow this anymore. 5 years down the line, yes, but we're not going to allow this anymore.
Yeah. In fact, the nomination rules that were approved by IBC in November last year required gender compliance. It's not even a surprise. They even knew before they started the nomination process, they needed to have gender compliant party lists. And that was actually within their own nomination rules of political parties.
So we're saying the senior counsel here probably ought to have advised his party on this matter, even before they went to nomination, say, folks, let's get this thing in order.
Exactly.
So that by the time we're nominating, we don't have an issue.
Or at the very least have been intimate with the details of what this thing said in the first place, across board in parties.
But by the time you become senior counsel, surely we assume something as fundamental as this that even a layman like myself can understand.
Not only that,
but it's exactly what has been said. They did not think this would be enforced. They did not think there would be repercussions. So it was business as usual, but then now they've been reminded about this decision. And
let's now come to reality, Christine.
Yes.
We know that IEBC is constantly being bombarded with political pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what they came out and said. Look, presidential candidate, when you come to us, come you plus your running mates. And this is the timeline. Oh, no, Bwana, we don't have enough time. They have said, all right, we'll extend some time. This particular circular is saying, come with gender-compliant party lists. And within 48 hours, if you have not amended and adjusted, we reject everything in totality. Is it likely that, political parties now are going to raise all the pressure and push IBC to say, okay, maybe what you can do is this particular time, because, there was COVID, so you can apply it next time. If they do that,
are they allowed to do that?
What would you do?
They're not allowed to do that because, as I said, it's the law. You cannot decide when to apply the law. You don't have that leeway. The court actually said because this case was brought by Katiba Institute around March of 2017, and the nomination process was ongoing then for the 2017 election. And the process for nomination was to end 26 April 2017, and the decision was given 20th April 2017. And the court recognized at that time, because the nomination process was coming to an end, so logically, we cannot create more confusion in the process by saying that a decision should apply in the 2017 election process. But the court said it's only in the 2017 election process it was not to apply. It therefore meant any other election process moving forward, it is a legally binding requirement that you comply. And IBC is an independent body. It is not under the rule, dictation of political parties. One of the problems we've been having under these countries is actually to have faith in the veracity of the election process. And IBC cannot perpetuate that by being seen to play second fiddle to political parties. Political parties are subject to the law. The IBC is subject to the law. We as Kenyans are also subject to the law. So we cannot create differentiation of classes of saying, oh, these ones are bound by law and these other ones are not, can decide when or whether they should exercise the law that is required of them. So IBC must implement this decision as required by the law.
I do get a bit anxious though, even as then we hear what then IEBC would want to implement. And that then the actions of political parties, who may then know that they're in contravention of some of these requirements, will then rush about to make sure that there are now names of either gender on the list. And that what would then happen is that you have a dilution of the process that this is trying to enact in the first place. That you're trying to get them to understand that it is important that you have gender balance, but then now because they do not want to get themselves in a sticky spot, they're just going to throw names at a list. Doesn't that then now go against the very spirit of what was tried in the beginning?
Yeah. But then let me ask, why do we keep on moving the line when it comes to political parties? If you are aware, at the 26th of June, you are supposed to pay your taxes and you comply. Why do we keep on shifting the boundaries when we come to political parties? When they are aware of processes 5 years in advance and they do not comply, then at the last stage say, now it's impossible for us to comply because of this time scheduling, because of pressures of time, because if we are not able to do it within time, because then we'll not be able to have proper nomination processes. I think that to me is actually entrenching a culture of impunity.
I get it, Christine, but IEBC is still saying to political parties that we're going to receive your lists. We're going to go through the list. If we find that it is not compliant, we're still going to give you 48 hours to get compliant. Now, that's my problem.
Yeah.
In that 48 hours is where we're going to have a bungling of things where Ndu's name will be thrown there. Christine, do you want? Yes, okay, put you there. And then we're going to have a diluted process yet again.
That irrespective, and I'm not saying that is likely to happen, under the law, whether I agree with it or not, there are different processes on how political parties can nominate their candidates. There's direct and indirect processes. And they should have known that if, let's say, we are not compliant, what can we do to ensure we meet these processes?
Compliance. So this could be another way.
Exactly. And there have been decisions even in other past electoral cycles whereby decisions have been made by court or by political parties on compliance or nomination of certain things, like candidates who were running for nomination challenged the result and they went to court, and then the court said, okay, we deem this process to have been illegitimate. You have 48 hours to rectify it. And they did. And nobody complained. But when it comes to women, again, double standards are applying at every juncture of this process.
You know, you've mentioned something here. This is entrenching a culture of impunity. And we've said it here on the show many times, that we are in a situation, and I don't even know at what point we got into that situation, where in an election process, the stakeholders are the candidate, the election manager, and the voter. In a democracy, the voter is the most important person in this, because the voter is getting to exercise his sovereign will of actually delegating the sovereignty to an elected person to exercise it on their behalf, right? So you'd expect that the voter is the one that you want to listen to all the time and give. But the candidates have become the most important. The candidates can actually sit and say, bana,
I don't like this.
Tumepatwa na homa, hatutafanya election this year.
Eric, there's
and the election manager is then pushed by the candidate.
You see, one of the things that our esteemed guest has mentioned is the independence of these institutions. Note, operative word, institutions. The people who are charged with managing these institutions clearly have a different understanding of the word independent, because they are susceptible to influence. And that's where the problem arises. The institution is independent. It's in the Constitution. Everyone knows they do not have to succumb to influence, yet they do. Meaning, even with the independence of that institution, the maturity that is required for someone to understand that actually I'm doing this on behalf of this entire nation, not at the behest of a few individuals who may think that they have a bigger say than the rest of the country. But that isn't the case. It doesn't come out. But why is it that all these commissions that we have, some of them independent, you still have issues coming up? Because the individuals who are there, whether they're at the board level, whether the management level, somehow the understanding of independence is not complete. They are susceptible to influence and the vagaries of whoever it is in power, whoever it is who is their chosen whisperer.
Because of the political hand in everything that this body does.
Yes.
Look, at the appointment of commissioners, politics is involved.
Yes.
Because the panel that selects the commissioners includes political parties.
Yes.
Then they are vetted by politicians. When they are seeking budgetary allocations and the reporting, they'll go back to the politics. So there is a lot of politics and political influence that maybe interferes with their independence. Do you agree, Christine?
I would say to the extent that Kenya has been the case in the last 10 years. Let's not forget that this August marks 12 years since we passed the 2010 Constitution. We have rule of law challenges. Rule of law challenges, and rule of law is an understanding that everyone is bound by the law, whether you're a politician, whether you're a state officer, whether you're a public officer. Principles of governance and the values of governance, good governance, indicated that, what we had hoped through this constitution is that you get leaders of integrity within parliament. So even though those processes that are meant to encourage openness, transparency in how commissioners are appointed. Remember before, these were all done by the president, right?
Yep.
So we are trying to expand the process to make more people involved in the process, to ensure the process has a bit of integrity and openness. But because of the failings of Chapter 6 of our Constitution, I have to say, then we get into a lot of these problems, including undue influence or unjustified influence in commissions which are supposed to ensure adherence to constitutional standards. But I have to say that we have to, as Kenyans as well, since we are stakeholders in the process, we have a voice as well. It's not only IBC,
we
it's not our political
have the ultimate
parties.
voice.
Yes, we are the ones who will require observance of the Constitution. Because remember, one of the reasons that took us to 2007, 2008 is the people did not have faith in the electoral body then. Are we starting to make inroads in ensuring that Kenyans again will start questioning the independence and the decision making of IBC.
Yep.
And we're going back to the same place that we are trying to take ourselves from. So Kenyans are also equally stakeholders. The women of this country require and really deserve a place in the table to try and move governance issues in the country. It's not taking away from anyone. It's not a competition. It's an issue of representation, dignity, and non-discrimination.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Christine, thank you very much for joining us today. Christine Konge is the Executive Director of Katiba Institute. We've been talking about this requirement that political parties must meet the gender threshold as they present their nomination list to the IBC. IBC has said, come to us when you're clean. If you're not, we have a kashawa out there. Go shower and you come back. Thank you, Christine. Remember, if you go to Naivas this morning, and just as before, Ndu does a selfie of herself and Christine. Go to Naivas, buy Colgates. 10 bob out of this goes into sinking wells around the country in schools that support communities. People need this. We want to do 30 by the end of the year.
Capturing moments with the new Oppo Reno 7 is what you want to be thinking about doing, especially over this long holiday. Every moment should not just be captured, but captured in spectacular fashion when you have the Oppo Reno in sunset orange color with its top-of-the-line camera and its great lens to give you clear and quality pictures. Remember, you can follow at Oppo Kenya on Facebook and Instagram, thinking about how you can capture the best moments with the Oppo Reno 7.
In the next hour, we want to open up the phone lines. It's about time that we have this conversation. What will you best remember Mwai Kibaki for? You can also post your comments on our social media platforms as we now talk about what's happening at Nyayo Stadium, all the way from State House into Nyayo Stadium for this morning. Hello, it's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Oseto. The body of the late President Mwai Kibaki has left the Relief Funeral Home and is at State House, Nairobi. President Kibaki's body will be at State House before leaving for the Nyeri National Stadium for the funeral service. The procession to State House is under heavy military security. Several heads of state are in the country to attend the service today, including South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, ex-Malawi President Joyce Banda, who is representing President Lazarus Chakwera, South Sudan Salva Kiir, who was in the country from Thursday, and Ethiopian President Sahle-Work Zewde. Meanwhile, Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu has declared 2 days of national mourning in Tanzania to condole with Kenya following the demise of President Kibaki. These as Kenyans continue to arrive at the Nyeri National Stadium to attend the funeral service for the late Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. Those that are present at the venue say they braved the morning rain and cold weather so that they could pay their last respects to the late president because he served Kenyans well and improved the country's economy.
Tunajivunia uongozi wake na tunajivunia kwa mambo mingi ambayo aliweza kufanya kwa nchi hii. Ni shujaa kweli.
Kwanza sisi kama wamama tunaona uchukuzi. Mabarabara zimejengwa, uchumi ilikuwa imeenda juu na hata pesa ilikuwa siku ilikuwa iko mingi. Kwa wakati huu tunaona kidogo haijafika mahali Kibaki alifikisha.
Mzee Kibaki kitu moja alifanya ni wakati Profesa Ngeri na William Ruto waliposimamishwa kazi, yeye akasimama na akasema mimi ndio nimekuandika kazi. Na kuna mtu anafuta wewe. Kama hao wengine wangefuata mfano kama wale ambao wanatafuta kasi ya presidential, tafadhali mfuate mfano wa Mzee Kibaki. Mzee Kibaki kama amekupea kasi afuate nyuma. Kama wewe ni minister mpaka wakati utamaliza. Mzee Kibaki hakupenda umpelekee vitina.
We are stationed strategically across the city Nairobi as we continue to bring you the live coverage from State House and Nyayo National Stadium. Be sure to join Spice and Vibes Radio and KTN News as we bring you the latest now. Former Cabinet Secretary Cecily Karugi has dropped her Nyandarua gubernatorial bid in favour of incumbent Governor Francis Kimemia. Karugi said she had decided to pave way for the sitting governor after a deep soul-searching and deep reflection. Karugi stated that despite pollsters ranking her as one of the leading candidates, she had resorted to bow out of the race to avoid an ending stalemate within the political outfit.
As I change tack, I will continue to support the Jubilee Party, evidenced by where I'm issuing this statement from. I will also continue to support Azimio Coalition and the candidates who are vying under Jubilee Party and Azimio Coalition at the county level, at the regional level, at the national level. Furthermore, I will apply myself in supporting not only the party, but also our presidential candidate under Azimio Coalition, His Excellency the Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto has reiterated his commitment to a free and fair election in August and challenged his opponents to make the same pronouncement. Ruto spoke when he hosted the Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland at his current office. At the same time, Ruto exuded confidence that the United Democratic Alliance will win a majority of the elective seats in the elections in August. The DP also met various aspirants from the party who won in the party primaries as well as those who lost and have agreed to support the winners. Now, a program initiated by the judiciary and the prison services will see an estimated 5,000 petty offenders released from prison in the coming months to decongest their facilities. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says the planned release will begin next month and will run in tandem with the expansion of probation and after-service program targeting the reintegration of the offenders. The CS said prisons are struggling with congestion following an increase of petty offenders among the inmates. Now, the High Court declined to issue orders allowing independent candidates in the August polls to form a coalition. Justice Anthony Mrima ruled that there will be a constitutional crisis if orders sought are granted. He also ruled that the petitioners will not suffer any prejudice. The court also noted that the electoral process will be held in limbo and interfere with the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission election timelines. A group of independent candidates had petitioned the High Court to allow them to form a coalition ahead of the August 9th general election. And Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has reiterated the government's commitment to ensuring full implementation of the universal healthcare in efforts to achieve equality in the sector. Kagwe said the reforms made under the universal healthcare have turned around the state of healthcare services and facilities in the country. Kagwe, who took over the ministry's leadership mantle at a time when COVID-19 pandemic had just struck, now says the crisis brought about key transformations. This is Newswire. Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
Again, not much happening in the city this morning if we're focusing on Nairobi. But if we look at the roads that already have been closed, we know right now that the cortege will be leaving State House in a few minutes after the ceremony that's taking place right now. So, Awings Kodek already closed off, Valley Road closed off, Kenyatta Avenue, State House Road, Processional Way, Kenyatta Avenue onto Huru Highway, and then Aerodrome Road to the Nyayo National Stadium. Those have already been closed off, so you will not be able to use that as members of the public, as that cortege, escorted by the military, then takes that journey down those roads. So if you're heading in that direction and you need to use going into the CBD, you might want to use an alternate route because you will not be able to pass that way, and it's likely to be closed for a couple of hours this morning. Apart from that, not much. Remember, the roads are slippery wherever you're using them. Let's talk about where you might get stuck this morning or what you see that we should know and share. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in
It
punching
is
up,
7 minutes after
not
9.
down.
Kenya's biggest
This
conversation.
is the Situation Room,
29th
the
day
only
of
way to start
April
your day.
2022, the day that we're bidding the final farewell to the third president of the Republic of Kenya, Emilio Mwai Kibaki. CT has the proverb Kibaki's saying.
CT has the paraphrase sayings of President Mwai Kibaki. Wewe ni binadamu bure kabisa. Wewe ni mavi ya kuku. Translated into English. You are a human being who is utterly useless. You are the droppings of a chicken.
Yes.
What?
What? You're useless. You're worthless.
Your contribution to mankind in this particular part of the world cannot be seen. Any positive contribution, non-existent. So as far as we are concerned, you're inconsequential.
Yes.
Hey.
Maana unakuwa na maana gani duniani ikiwa wewe kazi yako ni wizi wa ng'ombe? Kweli una maana gani?
So,
una
opening in the
maana
phone
wewe.
lines, opening
Ni
our
binadamu
social
ya
media
mavi ya
platforms,
kuku.
what will you mostly and fondly remember Mwai Kibaki for? We want to hear from you. Julia says, huwezi kupendwa na kila mtu. Hapana. That was the aha moment for her. And she doesn't care anymore if no one loves her. Asante sana Mzee Kibaki, you've left a mark in my life.
Mukoya says, well, no media, as I have listened and read papers, has talked about what Kibaki did to bring awareness of a deadly virus, HIV/AIDS. He really did campaign against it. I remember campaigns in schools in 2004. I was a pupil at the Langata Road Primary School then. It's interesting as well because, you know, it really hit during his presidency. And there was a lot that was done, you know, with negotiations being made for free ARVs in the country, NACOSTI, the National AIDS Control Council. So much was set up during that period of time to make sure that, you know, folks could get treatment and at the same time raise awareness about the virus.
Indeed. What's happening now is that the body is in State House. So Mwai Kibaki has gone to State House for the final time and the body has gone there and the prayer service has taken place. The procession will shortly leave State House, go through processional way into Kenyatta Avenue, into Uhuru Highway, into the Nyayo National Stadium. And this is where the funeral service is going to take place. It's bidding the final goodbye to a statesman. There are several presidents who are in the country, including who?
So we already, as of yesterday, South Sudan President Salva Kiir and as well as South African President Cyril Ramaphosa were in the country as of yesterday. Also, Joyce Banda represents Malawian President Chakwera. She's already here and expected from Ethiopia, Excellency Salha Zewde, who will be here later on today. So quite some representation from around the region. We're likely to see more as those details are made available to us.
So as the presidents are coming in, by the way, if you are planning to travel out of the city today via flight, either at Wilson or at JKIA, beware. Because of the president's arrival, the airspace is going to be closed for several times as the presidents are coming in, and that will obviously disrupt flight schedules throughout the day today. So if you are coming in from other parts of the country to Nairobi via flight, or if you're leaving Nairobi via flight, prepare yourself for disruptions and therefore delays. Former President Mwai Kibaki, prayer is being held at State House now. So he's gone to State House for the final time after spending 10 years working in State House. And the procession is now about to leave State House, heading towards Nyayo Stadium. There's a story on page 2 of the Standard today. This one is basically picking some excerpts from Njenga Karume's book, where he talks about, Njenga Karume is known to be one of those who was very, very close friends with Mwai Kibaki. Let me just read what this story says. The evening was long and dreadful. The looming night promised to be more dreary. A cold, dark, one-bedroom house in Nairobi West waited for Mwai Kibaki. I don't know what will happen tonight because I don't have money for my electricity bill. That's fretted Kibaki as he was dropped off at his place by his drinking buddies Njenga Karume and Charles Kigwe. The two had just come from African Corner, one of the few bars where Africans were allowed to imbibe the forbidden bottle beer exclusively meant for whites. This bar was owned by a former Nairobi councillor, Mushohi Gekonyo, and we were told about this bar by Matera Kiriri.
Yes.
Right there on West Coast Road. On that night in 1960, Kibaki was worried because he had an unsettled bar bill of 6 shillings and 50 cents, which he had no way of clearing because he was fresh from Makerere University, where he had resigned as a lecturer so that he could come and become KANU's executive officer for no pay. The benevolent Kigwe, an uncle to Mama Ngina Kenyatta, settled the power bill, and the three friends celebrated Kibaki's freedom from darkness late into the night. Since he was one of the few Kenyans with a car, he dropped Kibaki home. Touched by his friend's penury, Karume, who was a pioneer beer distributor for East African breweries, had a brainwave. He recalled in his book, Mwai Kibaki, 50 Years of National Service, how EABL Managing Director Brian Hobson offered a lifeline to a jobless economist. James, by the look of things, this country will gain independence soon and Africans will become very senior people, yet our friend Kibaki has no job apart from this executive officer thing, and they don't pay him. I'd like you to speak to him because I'd like to give him a job at EABL. That's Brian Hobson, who was the boss at EABL then. Karume is quoting Brian, telling him, according to Brian, we white people are not going to be here forever. When I look at black people that I know, it's only Mwai who can become the managing director of EABL. Mm-hmm. To Karume, this was an incredibly big job, and he promised to talk to Kibaki. I took him, that's Kibaki, for a drink at Kimango Bar in River Road, owned by former Nairobi PC Fred Waiganjo. Karume says he kept the job offer a secret because he didn't want other people to compete for the position with Kibaki. I knew that if Kibaki got the position, he'd buy me beer. I told Kibaki to forget this kind of business and that I would take him the following day to see Brian, and soon he'd be the MD and then the chairman of EABL. Kibaki was unimpressed by the offer. He declined it just like that. EABL lost what could have been the first African MD and chairman, but KANU got a loyal servant, and the country gained a minister, a vice president, and a president. Karume too lost a chance to get endless supply of beer from Kibaki.
That's a nice story.
Nice story, isn't it?
Indeed.
It's no. He had a vision. He could see, all right, I'll work in KANU, but
I'm going somewhere.
Yeah, this is about the country.
Mm.
It's not about individual. I will work. So all up from the moment he left Makerere, that's the last time he worked for self.
Mm.
From that point on,
He worked for country.
He worked for country. Until his death last week, Mwai Kibaki worked for Kenya.
He did. And now from those pictures that we're seeing that he's leaving State House now, the cortege now making its way out, and we'll see that they will go down State House Road out towards Processional Way. It's going to take its time because it's not something that's rushed. It's not quick. Slowly going through the places that, he would have gone many times when he was out doing business, the places that he would have gone past when he was going out attending to presidential business or the business of the country. He's flanked by people who worked with him, that's for sure, members of the military. And we're also seeing that, that those who...
His family is
there.
His sons and grandsons.
Yeah, were there during that... final goodbye from State House, and of course President Uhuru Kenyatta, flanked by First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, seeing him off, basically, and they will then join at Nyayo National Stadium later. We will see the procession go down slowly, the rain notwithstanding. They will walk slowly out through Processional Way and then down Kenyatta Avenue, connecting with Uhuru Highway.
Just giving you a program of what's expected to happen today. So the arrival of ambassadors and let's start with now. The body is leaving the procession. The solemn procession is departing from State House for Nyayo National Stadium. In about an hour, arrival of ambassadors and high commissioners, PSAs, judges, members of the National Assembly, senators, county governors, cabinet secretaries, all of them to receive the body. And then at 10:20, arrival of visiting heads of state and government at Nyayo Stadium. At 10:30, the president arrives, and then the national anthem and the East African anthem are gonna be played. At 10:45, the state reception of President Mwai Kibaki's funeral procession. There'll be a guard of honor and troops in line. Procession to the altar. The heads of state, CDF, Vice CDF, and the service commanders witness the mounting of the casket on the catafalque, and then the praying of the last respects by visiting heads of state. Then thereafter we shall have the state funeral service, Requiem Mass in celebration of the life of President Mwai Kibaki, celebrated by His Grace the Archbishop Philip Anyolo, assisted by His Grace the Archbishop Martin Kivuva. And then at 2 o'clock we shall have the retreat of the cortege of the late President Mwai Kibaki and the national anthem. At 2:10, His Excellency the President leaves Nyayo National Stadium, followed by other visiting heads of state and other dignitaries. So this is what's going to happen today, from now until about 3 p.m. at Nyayo National Stadium. We're asking you, what is it that you will remember Mwai Kibaki for mostly and most fondly? 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. You can also share your thoughts on social media. SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter as well.
Interestingly, Achola says, back in school, teachers would call us with the names of other students. This was in preparation for future life. Not quite sure that's in relation to. But, I mean, just what you said in terms of when Mwai Kibaki said, no, I'm not going to accept this position, essentially, as politely as he would have been able to muster. He saw very far what it is that he wanted to do, and he bore this, on his mind, that, looking for a country that we would like to succeed, but it is clear that the strategic plans are absolutely necessary for us to put in place. Otherwise, this is not going to happen. Planning and implementation of that plan is what we will see that would then arrive in success. And it's interesting because anybody who speaks to his success speaks on those things, that he knew that without a plan, folks, there's no way we're not going anywhere.
The thing that, in a sense, stood out, you see, all the presidents we had were worthy people. Jomo Kenyatta spoke at every opportunity he was given to speak. President Moi spoke a great deal and had a lot to say. Come Mwai Kibaki, one hardly ever, he read speeches, spoke on the occasion, but off the cuff, statements simply dominating the airwaves, hardly. Now, when you have a president who doesn't say that much, what it gives room for is conjecture. People then decide what he should have said and what he could have said. They even take it further than what he could have thought. And yet you actually don't know what he could have thought. There's something easier to read, what he did. So when the man kept quiet, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. But he wasn't going to engage you in too much discussion, too much talk. He would simply position himself and ensure that whatever required doing was done. I personally found, the one thing that I found astounding with that presidency, he did something that I've never seen done. Stopped projects. Stopped, meaning development projects, one whole year. Say, we are not doing anything. Full stop. We are not. These trillions we talk about collecting. It is not spoken of, but somehow the collection mechanisms of care and everything that goes with it was set in the time of Kibaki's presidency. So suddenly, we were realizing and collecting more money than the country had ever seen.
Yep.
Which also means we were able to actually pay as a country for the projects that we wanted. Which also means we were borrowing, but infinitely less than we had ever borrowed in our history. Now, when somebody sets a country on that path where it is clear that you are being shown that everything that you want to do, you can actually do on your own. Because that was my reading of it. These things we want to do, we can actually do them. Now,
live within your means.
Yes. I don't think that one can talk of, in my mind, a better legacy than that. Somebody who gets to the point of understanding that you actually are capable. You actually have the means. All you need to do is apply what you actually have and apply it well. And suddenly, the country begins to change. It's a completely different trajectory. The steps that he took were not popular. The steps he took it was a road that it wasn't well charted. It was a path not regularly followed. But look at what it resulted in. So sometimes when I hear people saying that this was a man who was cowardly, I wonder, ask, what is your yardstick?
Yes.
When you're talking about the political scene, most politicians believe that you respond to situations by talking a great deal.
And hard on.
Yes.
Mundu.
Yes.
Ukinitukana kutukana.
Yes. Or nitakupiga. Now, here you have somebody who chose silence. Voiced his personal opinion on occasion, but otherwise silent. Throughout his history, silent. The one occasion where Mwai Kibaki was known to have spoken with a great deal of emotion was at the Battle of JM Karaoke. Where, I'm paraphrasing, he said, even if it takes 100 years, we'll get to know the truth of this matter. And it'll come out. This wasn't a man who spoke very often about such things. Now, all am I saying? I'm saying this. It is sometimes best to judge someone by the things they have done. We tend to look at what people have said.
Well, the manner in which they've behaved.
Yes, and we take that as being the yardstick. Yes, it can be a yardstick. But the enduring yardstick is what they have done.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that. Because it's visible for posterity.
You know, when he was campaigning, so I voted for Kibaki. Kibaki is the only person I've voted for in the presidency and who has won. My other choices have been...
have not won.
Have not won. And I'm not saying like they're about to win anytime soon.
However.
So, well, growing up in the 80s, it was President Moi and Vice President Moi Kibaki. You know? Mtukufu Rais Daniel Arap Moi akiwa na makamu wa rais Moi Kibaki. So that was it, right? So I grew up just admiring this man and Moi Kibaki, the DP and the roots with my part of my family that comes from his constituency over there. So I was like, hey, this is the man. So in 92, when you went for the presidency, of course, I'm the big supporter. But I was only 15, so I could not vote. 97, I had a vote. Kibaki. And then, waliiba. You know the way we always say when you lose.
He didn't win.
So no one loses an election in this country. Your elections are stolen.
Yeah, it was stolen. 202, we won. Right? 207, they say we stole.
But you won.
But we won. Right? But the point was, the story I wanted to tell is in 97, I remember just watching some of the clips of Kibaki's political campaign, and he was talking about taxation. You know, the things that Nderito Muriithi, the governor, was saying are not sexy. He's talking about success. We can raise all tax, and then we can do this and the other into tax. And I'm just thinking, okay, I like you guys, but it's okay, whatever you say. Nesawa. Okay. In 202, similar, before he got into the accident and went to hospital, the same. I vividly remember where he had gone for this political rally with Kijana Wamalwa and Charity Ngilu, somewhere in Kwale. Kijana has come and spoken, nice, good Swahili about it. Ngilu has talked about
live in the crowd completely.
Stuff live in the crowd. Kibaki has come and ushuru wa Kenya tunaweza ushuru. And then he starts counting, how much we are raising, what's our potential, and what we could do with it. And I remember that years later, when now we get into that point of kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea, the promotion by KRA. Remember, this is a thing that Kibaki was talking about. He's actually implementing what he was talking about. He was clear. It was clear in his mind about taxation and the potential
that it could have
on the development of the country. How much potential we had to just raise, and then what that money could be used for.
But we actually did see what the money could be used for.
Yes.
You see, the one thing that it then set in motion was granting the citizenships an opportunity to understand where your money goes to and what it does. And that eases your ability to pay. You feel it is okay for me to be taxed. Because when I'm taxed, I have good roads, I have this, I have that. Right. It is okay. Tax away. But when you are taxed, but you don't see any of these services that should be coming your way, then you feel, why on earth am I paying this tax?
It becomes a problem.
Precisely. There's nothing in my mind that can make a nation as cohesive as when you have a government that functions and seems to meet, in my mind, the basic needs that the mwananchi has. Education, health. And let me just throw this one in, security. Now, if one can see that being done, meaning you have a free opportunity, a safe opportunity to go about whatever it is that you want to go about on a daily basis, what more do you want? Because that's an atmosphere, an environment in which these opportunities we keep talking about, they are in plenty. Having said that, politics being politics, and Kenya being Kenya.
Kenya not being Kenya. Kenya not being Uganda.
Kenya not being Uganda or any other country in the region. Yes, our politics had to come in and our politics had to muddy. Yes. And again I say our politics.
It just had to happen.
Yes.
That way.
Something good which was in the offing, a beautiful thing that we could all see.
Somehow.
But can you imagine if...
yes, please.
Let me just put it this way. Can you imagine if he had lost in 2017? In 2007, rather. So if Kibaki had only served one term, and then this term is marred by the 2005 referendum, the bombers fallout, the loss of the referendum, and then he's kicked out within 5 years.
Actually, I think the very thing that you have said is what the peacemakers looked at. And they realized there are many paths we could follow, but the best path to follow, it's like an opportunity. Why don't we get these warring parties together and let's get them to work together? That very thing that you're saying. Because one looked at the opportunity and the alternative, man would have been thrown into complete chaos.
So we'd basically be looking, let's even assume, all right? Let's assume that what had happened at KICC, blah, 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 that Mwai Kibaki did not take that oath of office that evening, okay? And he just said, Sawa, I'm going home. Whatever this has happened, I've lost. He went home. We'll be looking back now and talking about Kibaki, the biggest, greatest failure of all. Coming in on that note in 2002, then the games that happened at Bomas, you trying to force and document down people's throats in a constitutional referendum, losing majorly, and then going into an election and just being kicked out after one term.
That would have been a narrative, but I'm looking at the stability of the country. The country would have been very unstable.
Why?
You see, when you have the sort of differences that existed then, look at it from the context of having a coalition government. The coalition government, as I said, brought two warring parties together.
Yep.
Now, imagine if each were allowed to go their separate ways. To get a clear picture, look at 2017. That tells you, that gives you an impression of what could have happened in 2008. People would have been at each other's necks. But with the coalition, it quelled many things. And it brought about an opportunity for people to say, okay, folks, let's just put some of these things aside and let's see how we can move forward. It was a salvaging opportunity. But let me take the discussion further, since we're in the realm of imaginations. Imagine if Kibaki had a third term. Where would we be? That same government that was there in 2007, let's say they said, folks.
So let's say the Grand Coalition government
yes,
had continued.
Had continued. Since we have this situation where we've created something that didn't exist, let's create something else. Let's give these guys one more term so that they
let's see what they can do.
Yes.
I think we'd have had a problem.
Why?
Because the politics of it would have been the side that shook hands with Kibaki. You see, Kibaki, he's extending, he's the president. Then the other side is still desirous of rising to the top.
Yes.
Raila would still be wanting to be president.
Yes.
Kalonzo would still be wanting to be president.
Yes.
So they would be feeling, okay, we're helping this guy deliver on his promise, but I want to be president.
That is true.
And the kind of, small two fights we used to see. Oh, Kibaki has done this. Raila says it was no consultation. Oh, Kibaki has done this. Raila says no, but we're supposed to. Imagine it if it had continued for another 5 years.
But
and a point where now even Raila supporters are wondering, where, boss?
You said we were going to give it over.
We want you to be
president.
but what is this?
Eric, I can agree with you, but there was one little thing that happened amidst that bickering. Kibaki determined that he and Raila should meet and talk, the two of them, minus the troops. And we started moving forward very, very quickly at that
because of that.
Yes.
So there would have been an easier way. So what you're saying is that even for another period of time, the same conversation would have taken place, because then you pass the message to
yes, they would have said, folks, if this is what is happening, let's have a different conversation. You see, the ability to stake those difficult decisions, that conversation is something that one got the impression individuals on both sides did not want to see happen. They preferred this acrimonious situation that they had, where people are trying to get the better of each other. But the moment that conversation was had between these two leaders, everything changed. There was an understanding. The two of them, minus everybody else, plus the dancing girls, none of them were there.
Well, on that note,
take a break. So the procession is leaving State House now. It's being led by military officers who are marching, and they're going to march all the way from State House to Nyayo National Stadium. Slow procession. The GSUs who guard State House standing in attention and saluting their former commander as he now leaves. Final journey to Nyayo National Stadium and thereafter to Othaya. That's what's happening now. Showmax. This long weekend, you can watch Showmax. You can actually watch Crime and Justice Season 1 and Season 2 on Showmax for as little as 760 shillings per month. Yes.
And then you can also take pictures of your favorite moments using the Oppo Reno 7, brand new phone from Oppo, saying that you can capture moments with the sunset orange gadget. That device will allow you capture moments with this splendid camera, and it's not leaving anything out in terms of quality. And that 64 MP camera will allow you to capture those moments in all their glory. Oppo Kenya on Instagram. Find out more details about that and capture those moments. Thanks to Oppo Reno 7.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Whether it's your graduation,
I love you too.
Or your engagement day, for those unlimited moments, nothing can capture them better than the new Oppo Reno 7 AI triple camera. Or step up your selfie game with the ultra-sensing selfie camera and save them all with the 256 GB memory space. Comes in exquisite fiberglass leather design in sunset orange that will definitely get your friends talking. The brand new Oppo Reno 7, unlimited me in portrait.
No, this wheelbarrow. How can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende.
Oh wow.
Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, the shower's letting up just a little bit in Nairobi. Currently, we're seeing 18 degrees, highs of 23. The shower still will be back, though, later, lows of 15 today. Partly sunny conditions at 18 in Nakuru, highs of 21. We'll see highs of 23 in a rainy Nyeri, still at 17, highs of 23. 22 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Eldoret. And rain showers continue Mombasa, highs of 31 today. 31 will also be the high in Malindi, where the rain is still coming down. Kisumu is mostly cloudy at 23, highs of 27, and 25 will be the high in Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy at 22. In Kampala, it's still raining. 23 will be the high, lows of 18, and it's partly sunny now in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Lagos, there's a haze over the city. It's back and forth. 25 right now, highs of 32, and sunny conditions at 14 in Johannesburg. 21 will be the high and lows of 10. Mostly cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa, highs of 31. And at 19, Beijing is sunny, highs of 20 and lows of 13. Light rain in Paris this morning at 11, going to highs of 20, and 13 will be the high in a sunny London, currently at 7. It's 7 degrees and clear still Sunday night in New York. Coming into still Thursday night in New York. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 16 and lows of 7.
Spice up your life.
All right, so closure of roads still in full effect now, with procession of the cortege flanked by military coming down processional way in a short while, just coming off State House Road. Still moving in that direction. So we know Arwings Kodak closed from there, Valley Road onto Kenyatta Avenue, and then Uhuru Highway through to Aerodrome Road this morning. That closure will be in effect for some time. So you will use other routes this morning if you're out and about today, which we've seen that not a lot of traffic happening in most parts of the city today. So we're just going to keep an eye on things. The sun will be out, but the rains will continue from the forecast, so the roads will be slippery, and we've seen a few accidents this morning, so please do be careful. Let's talk through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, 20 minutes to 10.
Mornings done right. 94.4.
And also to call in, what will you mostly and fondly remember Mwai Kibaki for? 0719012600. Some comments on social media.
Right, so it's interesting that Andrew, just in that conversation that we were having earlier, Andrew Franklin says, with due respect, Jimmy Carter suffered an overwhelming defeat to Ronald Reagan in 1980 and has gone on to be one of America's greatest former president. And then he says, but Kenya is not America.
Well, yeah.
The enduring Kenyan tradition of not criticizing the departed means that funerals are conducted with great solemnity and fond memories are shared on media. Inevitably, As the news cycle runs or turns, amnesia kicks in and mention of questionable conduct becomes muted. So almost as though you're not allowed to talk about the dead or the departed in a negative
African
way.
Yes,
it's not just Kenyan.
It's an African.
But also, you see, that people say what you did or didn't do, just because it isn't praising you, it doesn't mean it is negative. For instance, why is it that when somebody is referred to as tall, it is a non-issue? But if you're referred to as short, people then take, should we say?
An issue.
Yes. If someone says that you are slender, it is a non-issue. If someone says, and the word that's used, that is you're fat. It's an issue. Why? And yet in some communities, fat, positive.
Nice.
Kabas. Yes. Essentially, you're a full human being.
As opposed to half.
Well, as opposed to...
less than full.
Many traditions, yes. One didn't speak ill of the dead, but one spoke of that person for who they actually were. Yes. And history provides us an opportunity to even contextualize some of the things that you saw or you said about a person. This person did this.
Yep.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
fine. At the time, this is what it looked like. But now that we look back, there were people who were opposed to that coalition in 2008.
Yep.
Viciously opposed to it. But with hindsight, there are those who say, no, it was a good thing. Why? They saw the benefits of it. Now, in the same way, the current handshake that we've had, there are those who've criticized it. History, people will be looking back and say, you know something? That decision wasn't a very bad decision, come to think of it. Now, if you want to understand the perspective that other people have of this president whom you assume was just your president, he was a leader recognized by others. Tanzanian president, Samia Suluhu, 2 days of mourning in Tanzania.
NTZ.
2 days, meaning flag at half-mast. 2 days. Now, if that isn't recognition, what is?
Indeed.
President of South Africa is in the country. President of Southern Sudan is in the country. What does that tell you?
Ethiopia.
Yes.
Coming.
Yes.
And of course, we expect the Wazewa Boma to come.
They will come. All the Wazees.
Museo of Uganda, Museo of Rwanda, Museo of DRC. I don't know whether he'll come back.
They're just next door.
They're just, the Wazee wa kijiji lazima,
yes.
They have to come. Karanja is in Naivasha and he has fond memories of the former president. Good morning, Karanja. Karanja.
Hiya. Eric, Durham City, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Karanja.
Yes, I think my eye was not clear. Now, I remember President Mwai Kibaki.
Yes.
It was a by-election, which was held in a place called Kitutu Church. After the death of the former then MP called the Omingo Magara.
The father.
Yes, the father of Omingo Magara.
Yes, because Omingo is actually quite alive even as we speak.
Yes. Now, I happen to be in a convoy of President Mwai Kibaki, having been working with somebody called the late Jega Karume. Then we are behind the president.
Kuba when the deep state.
Yes, no.
Karanja, kumbe we ni mzito.
It was by then was read.
Okay.
Now, I was behind the president. Now the president was talking to the members of the public.
Yes.
And recently, we tell this guy called that go near to the president, so that the president, now go to the president, and maybe the president can see you on his face and say, go to this guy. Now, you know the president, the former president Kibaki is a person who you cannot understand, you yourself. Now, the president started his speech, and when he was almost finished, he said this word. Mimi najua niye munachaguanaga Na nyinyi mnajua nani mtachagua. Uchaguzi ni yenu. Lakini mwenye mtanichagulia ni sawa. Mtafanya na yeye kazi. That the thing that I remember President Mwai Kibaki. The president, he means what he means. He was a principled president.
Yes.
He was very humble.
Yes.
He never interfered any politics to anybody. You remember even during his time, when he was a former vice president.
Yes.
He had a battle with somebody called Kanyi. Kanyi from Nyeri.
Yes.
And his father called Kayo Munene. You know, the president stood very firm. In fact, the president, the Mwai Kibaki was the best president the Kenyans have in history. Thank you very much, Eric, and Do and City.
Thank you, Karanja. You too. Zachary.
Oh, hi, guys.
Hi,
good morning.
Morning, people. How are you people?
Fine, thank you, person. And how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good, Morimandro, and I'm happy that we are in mid. Is it on or in mid-term? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
For mid-term.
Yes.
Let me say this, yeah? I'm also a deep state because of the three presidents. I think it's only Kibaki who I am not interacted with. I remember I wrote
the others are from your village, Buana.
Not from my village, but no, boy was not from our village. But I remember writing a letter.
Okay.
And it went up to him, and the guy was generous. He gave. It's a long story. I don't know to repeat it, but people are funny, yeah.
But you got something.
Oh, I'll call it and tell you what happened.
Okay, which means you got something. Carry on.
Yeah, Uhuru, I read something in front of him and his family. Way back when he was introduced to us, and he's a good guy in Gatodo Stadium, yeah?
Yes.
I would have also rode in his car. That is the time that he was trying to become now the MP for Gatodo. So he's a good guy. They are good guys, yeah?
Yes.
But now today we are remembering Kibaki. Let me say this. Kibaki is the guy who showed that people can be given their dignity. And let me actually honor him because he brought our dignity. He brought dignity back to us. And let me say this, yeah? And I do not want to echo somebody's views, yeah? Remember I said, and even the president said, there are some people here, the millennials, who do not know. If you tell them can you draw a road with the potholes, they would not know. Can you draw a school or a hospital where there are no drugs, the doctors are not being paid? They cannot know. And I pray God that we do not go back into that scenario. In fact, I don't know. Actually, when I try to remember those days, Mr. Eric and the panel, the listeners, I do not wish I would want to be alive if we go back into those whatever. People had their coffee, they had their majani, they had their milk. What I think there was the guy there who talked of the potholes from the airport to Mombasa Road, yeah?
Yeah, from Mombasa to Malaba.
Tell these people that these things were a reality that we lived through, yeah?
That's true.
And Kibaki came and said, no, look here, guys, this is Kenya. I'm giving every one of you a chance, and all of the guests that you have called there to remember Mr. Kibaki, that is those who gave a chance to work for the government, yeah? He told them, you are not working for me. You are a servant leader. You are in that position so that you can work for Kenyans.
Yeah.
And hat off to that man, and may God rest his soul in eternal peace, and may we get a leader who is kind-hearted like him. And remember, we never had such statements as Mupede Musipede. I never had such a thing from Mr. Kibaki.
That's true.
I never had a thing like gazeti ya kufuga sijui ya kufuga nini
nyama.
ya kufuga grass iko wapi? Sisi tunakula grass hapa kwa ground iko wapi?
Now we know who influenced that kind of talk. Is the early campaigners.
But we do not mention names. If you mention names, you are going to see the wrong
It's the people who are campaigning in the late 90s in Gatondo.
Yeah.
Including one Zachary Gikonyo. Baba Waithera. Anyway, have a good day.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank you. Mwalimu Irongo Amos in Kisii, good morning.
Good morning, Indu, City, and Eric.
Good morning, Mwalimu.
Morning, sir.
Yes, I'm fine. Let me be quick because I know time is running out.
Yes.
Now, I want to admit that whatever is wrong with Kenya, sometimes we have to agree that we have smooth transition of power.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that we saw from Moi and from Kibaki, and I think it is something people should emulate. However, I have two things that I will not forget to say. Number one, in 1991, Kibaki was the Minister for Health. My father was very sick in Kisii District Hospital. He was referred to Kenyatta National Hospital. No, he was supposed to be referred, but the hospital refused to refer him. And then one of my cousins put it in you remember the Kenya Times?
Yes.
And when Kibaki came later on, but my father was already dead then, when he came to Kisii, I remember he said, I want to know this person who was supposed to be referred, but was not referred. I think he was a very concerned man about humanity. Finally, I remember him as the only president who knew that public workers needed a good, in fact, a manageable salary that can make them survive. Otherwise, after that, what we know is that we won strike sometimes, we go to court, we win court cases, churches are changed, and then that is it. That's what I remember him for.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Good day. Edwin Washira.
Good morning.
Good morning, Edwin.
UPT, how are you?
Fine, thanks. And how are you doing?
I'm very well. Now, I want to say this. When Moi Kibaki became the president, he just said that we are not going to borrow any more money and tulipe ushuru tujitegemee. That's KRA slogan.
Yes.
Then something very good happened. There was a tax amnesty that was given in 2004. And that is when now suddenly everybody wanted to disclose the taxes they are not disclosed. And that moved the trajectory of the taxes from 180 billion in 2002. And by the time he left in 2013, we were at more than 800 billion.
Yep.
That is one of the things that I really credit him for, and is so less in peace.
Indeed. And thank you very much, Edwin.
Asante sana.
Queen Elizabeth, Edwin, Queen Elizabeth has also sent a message to the people of Kenya and the president, and she says, I was sorry to receive the news of the death of Mwai Kibaki. He had a lifelong record of service to the Kenyan people. It'll be of deep sadness to your country to have lost a great statesman, but Kenya can take pride in the legacy of his leadership. I send you and the people of Kenya my condolences at this loss. Signed, Elizabeth R. And this has been communicated to the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Kenya by the British High Commission, which is a direct message and a direct quote from Queen Elizabeth. She also sent her message. Yeah.
Right.
People will remember many things. Mwitu Mwanake says post-election violence, a new constitution, the thicker superhighway, increased prices of basic goods, among the things that you'll remember Kibaki for.
If that is the yardstick, what are we going to remember this presidency for?
Indeed. It's interesting, though, that the memory of one who led a country on the continent then reverberates through the whole continent.
Yeah.
And that you will find that people are sending messages from around the continent, not just because it's the quote-unquote right thing to do, but because there was something that they felt, which obviously they will miss or there was some kind of impact or emphasis that it laid, upon them. And so worldwide, whereby it would be the presidential thing to do, that you send a message of condolence to your colleague when something like this happens, or to your counterpart when something like this happens, is that you will find that the weight of some of these messages then will vary based on the experience that they had with them. It's just interesting as Queen Elizabeth's message comes through and you hear, okay, well, the impact that they felt. What did they feel as development partners? Whereas maybe her role is more ceremonial than anything else. But it's clear that those messages are going through the country. And, at the time when he was president, the partnership was strong. And they feel it. They know it.
They do. In fact, when you say they know it, the question I ask myself is, what do they know that we don't know?
Yeah.
Because, yes, we are part of the Commonwealth.
Remember, during the time of the Mwai Kibaki presidency,
yes,
is when we had a man called Sir Edward Clay in Kenya.
Yes.
He was British High Commissioner. Where? Every waking moment, a man would say how this country is just corrupt.
To the doggies.
You are vomiting on our shoes, blah, blah, blah. And they offered John Gedongo asylum. Anyway, we will be watching what's happening at Nyeri National Stadium, of course, and also what happens in Othaya tomorrow. We want you to have a lovely weekend. We'll be back here on Monday. We'll also be here on Tuesday as the country enjoys and celebrates midterm. The Situation Room continues. Colgate has said if you go to Naivas today and you buy Colgate, some 10 shillings out of that will go towards sinking wells around the country. They want to sink 30 more wells by the end of this calendar year to benefit at least 120,000 people. Sinking wells in schools to benefit communities. It's a big initiative. City, the days proverb as we live.
Actually, I am going to summarize it. Do not be inconsequential. Do not be thoughtless. Do not be stupid.
Usikue kumbafu, usikue shenzi, usikue binadamu ya mavi ya kuku.
Precisely.
Have a lovely weekend. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. So in the next hour, we have some music, and then thereafter, and keep listening to the top of the hour because the news, Dennis Asseto will be giving you what's happening, blow by blow of what's happening in Nyeri National Stadium. And then Sugar and Spice are going to be here from 11 with more music. Quatch coming to take you home on Spice Drive. The adults in the room later on tonight. Lovely weekend. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news.